pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Full crowd. I have no COVID update or Board of Health update tonight. We're going to go straight into presentations. First tonight, the assessor is asked to address the board. My understanding, Patty, if you want to come up, my understanding that Patty will be resigning her position with the town. So I understand, Patty, you may be turning in your resignation letter tonight and your keys. If that's fine, that's okay. The board and I, and certainly the residents, appreciate everything you've done for the town, your many years of service, but you want to come up?
Actually, what I wanted to talk about was I wanted to notify my people who have been receiving the card in the mail. I wanted to just give them an update for those that I haven't talked to on the phone, that the card was due to a mass mailing that was mandated by the governor. The governor told us assessors that we had to do 2 mailings. So one was on the back of your tax bill, and the other one was this card that went out. So what it was for was to remind people to kind of check to see where you are with your exemption. So there are 2 exemptions. There's a basic star and there's an enhanced star. To be on the enhanced star, you have to be 65 and older, and your income has to be less than $93,200 or less. So that's what the card was about. And then the other reminder that I want to do is I have a list of seniors that have to come into me every year to show me their income, and I have a lot of them who have not showed and have to have their information into me by March 1st. So that was another thing that I wanted to bring up to them.
Pat, do they have to physically come in, or
Does it what?
do they physically come in, or can they?
No, they have to come in. Yeah, because we have to make a copy of their, I mean, some of them will call me on the phone and I'll tell them what I need and they can send it.
Oh, okay.
But I have the list here, which I'm leaving with you, so that somebody can notify these people because they have to be in by March 1st. So my resignation was going in today, meaning I would be getting done next Friday. So you locked me out of my computer tonight, so I couldn't go in to do some stuff for somebody.
I don't know anything about you being locked out of the computer.
I went out to get in my computer and it was locked up. So I don't know who did it, but
Someone did.
I don't know if you do it.
Nope, I do not.
Yeah. So you know what's really sad? I've been in this town for 16 years. I've worked here. I think I have a great rapport with all the people in this town. And it's not that I want to leave, it's just that I asked you people to have a 2% or a 3% raise. I'm a town worker just like everybody else. I know you all think that I'm a 2-day person and I make a lot of money. But I'm not 2 days, I'm like you, I'm 24/7. When I go into a store, when I go into eat dinner, or wherever I go in Ticonderoga, I'm always approached and I'm always asked questions. So I'm not just 2 days, I'm like you, I'm 24/7. So it's really sad that, that I'm treated that way. So again, what else did I want to remind you? So I'm trying to get all my valuation book up and my exemptions up to par before I leave next week. So when I go, I don't know who you want me to send my phone messages to, but they got to go to you or somebody. So you'll have to let me know on Tuesday when I'm done. And then here's my list of people you'll have to contact. So there you go. Other than that, if you have any questions for me, you're right. But my keys will be handed in to Tanya on Tuesday at 4 o'clock when I leave.
Okay, that's fine. Just for the record, I'm not going to get into personnel matters, but for the record, every employee received a 2% raise.
Mark, I didn't get one. Look on my budget. I did not get one. I get the same amount of money that I've been getting the last few years. So you did not give me one.
we have fiscal advisors and marketing to address the board tonight. I asked them to come to the board to discuss some of the products that they have. We have a number of capital projects which have associated grant amounts. I think this is not another chair. We have a number of grants that the town gets into for capital projects and other projects, and a lot of times those have local matches. And the local matches, over time as they accumulate, they create a tax burden for the town of Ticonderoga and the taxpayers. So we're trying to get to a point where we understand how much the town can financially bear from the projects that we've currently got going on and some of the things that we're looking forward to in the future. So I've asked these two gentlemen, John, right?
John Shahadi?
And Andrew. Okay, to kind of show us what products they can offer for the town. So the floor is yours, gentlemen.
Okay, now, we sent out this a few weeks ago to everybody. You have it?
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I'll make a copy.
I got a few, so we can maybe share them. Yeah. Yes. So, we're a municipal advisory service based in Syracuse. We work all over the state. We have an office in Saratoga, one downstate, and one on the western side of the state. Fiscal was founded in 1967. I'm a former CEO. I'm probably in by last year. I'm 72, and I'm going to bow out this year. So, and interestingly, I was a part-time controller for the town of Clay in Syracuse. That's where Micron's come. I worked there 44 years as a controller. Part-time, because I had a full-time deputy. And our agenda was maybe 2 pages at most, and yours is almost a book. So it's what we do is assist municipalities, school districts, authorities in borrowing money and setting rates, either water or sewer rates or general tax rates, highway rates, to fund the debt. And if you're considering borrowing money, and we know the fund and either the unit count or the assessed values, we run schedules of estimated debt service based on market conditions and give you an idea of what those projects would cost. You don't have to do them one at a time. If you have a number of different capital needs, we consolidate them into one issue. It makes it more attractive to the banking community. We also assisted in rate studies, and we have a specialist, Kelly Lathan, who couldn't be here today. In our Saratoga office, Janine couldn't be here. She's in Florida. But she'll be back next week. Kelly is our guru for water and waste grants and aid. The WIA grant I saw, you have a $5 million WIA award, and you have a local share. Those are the kinds of things that she can do. We work in concert with your engineers. We don't duplicate efforts, but if you want our service for that, we provide an hourly service for administrative work. Okay. And when it comes to borrowings, we have a set fee schedule, and it's all up front. In fact, we have to. We're registered with the SEC and the MSRP. They require us to give you a contract that delineates line for line, purpose for purpose, what our fees would be. And if there's any questions or thoughts or concerns, and Andrew, please pipe up.
Absolutely, yeah. And any borrowing you would have, you see a lot. It has to do with the disclosure that the town puts out there to the market. So our office obviously works with that at creating the official statement, and on each issue or borrowing, you'd have multiple municipal advisors reviewing that and providing comments and questions back, just to make sure that the appropriate disclosures are all made to the market, and it's done in an upright fashion. And in addition to the borrowing, we really act as a head point for it as well. So when you do a borrowing, you have various different legal counsels, bond counsel, local counsel, all working on it. We're kind of, I like to consider us the point guard for the town, where we're kind of, they all have separate roles, but we are the main contact and helping everybody move the issue along towards the ultimate goal of funding the project.
Okay. So how would we go about the process of, we would give you the information on all our various capital projects and the associated information and requirements with the grants, you know, matching, is that something you would put
Absolutely.
together,
Yeah.
look at, and evaluate?
And as it says in here, the SEC requires us to have that written agreement in place. It doesn't have to be, you know, prior to us doing any work, but it reasonable assurance that we're gonna have a contract that can be executed in the near future.
Okay.
So, we'd be happy to provide you that information.
You guys have any questions?
Yeah, so I think what we have talked about here in the town board is, and what we want to do is we pretty much know where we are with our present grants and loans and money that we borrowed. I think what we'd like to be able to do is have some kind of an idea going forward, you know, what the tipping point is, if you will, right? So if we know we've got some multiple projects out there coming up that need to get some funding, some grants, obviously there are grants, so, you know, before we say, oh, we've got a $5 million grant to do an $8 million project, still means there's $3 million out there, right? You can do that year after year after year. At what point does it become financially unfeasible for the community to sustain that going forward? That's really kind of what we're looking at is, you know, so we can look at if we have a project and grant money coming in and some matching funds, you know, is that a project that we feel comfortable moving forward with, or should we not because it would put too much of a tax burden on the
We would put the schedules together, and perhaps some of the grant funds have to be upfront and then you get reimbursed, so you might have to do bond anticipation notes, if they're going to get paid up with grant money, but then that will share, we'll run the schedules depending on the purpose, because with the bond council, there's a section 11 of the local finance law that says how long you can borrow each purpose for. But we've got schedules for 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years. Sewer and water can go 40 years. And we run those estimated debt service schedules and say, okay, here's the tax rate, here's a typical home, the full value is this, their tax impact is that. And that's how you can measure whether you want to do it or not.
Yeah, some of our projects are mandated projects, and you know, those are things we have to go forward with. But if we know where we are, then it'll help us decide for the ones that aren't mandatory, the things that we do want to accomplish over time. You know, when to schedule those out, rather than get ourselves into trouble.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And that's another thing that we track along the way too, is just as you have these various projects, and this might be longer down the line, but as you have some of their debt fall off, where you would want to start and add a new project so that you kind of, we call it filling the gap of the debt that's falling off and going away, but you're still maximizing those tax dollars that you're already putting out and bringing in from the community.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we were thinking.
Hey, John, Matt Fuller.
Hi, Matt. Oh, hi, how are you?
Part of why we ended up here is
Yes.
the work we've done in Whitehall.
Whitehall, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I know Greg, I think AES reached out to you guys, but it came from the discussions of the work we've done over the last year
Yep.
in Whitehall. And just for
Yep.
reference, Doug Goodfriend is our bond counsel. So
Yep.
Doug at Oregon.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Doug, I got a story. Doug gave me a ride home when I had Ticonderoga County down for a rating, and we were September 1st, and we were standing 2 blocks away from the World Trade Center when it got hit. It crashed. We got to Doug's office, to his associates, Tom Myers. He put us up for the night because the planes were all done. And They'll give you a ride home the next day.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Ms. Jones? Anything else from you guys?
Well, just we look forward to working with you. If there's any questions, we're not on a meter, you call us, email us, we're here to help you.
Yeah, that's a great point that John made. We're not, I'm not a lawyer, I don't play one, so you can call us all the time, and we're happy to help in any way, and it's not a, we're not clicking down the clock and charging you for that, as we go, it's really, our fees are built into exactly what the schedule is, there's not that complicated. It's great.
All right, great. I appreciate you guys coming in tonight.
Well, thanks for having us.
You're released unless you want to stay.
It's gonna be a while. Good luck. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
All right, next we have two public hearings this evening. The first one is to repeal local law 3 of 2007. This is really taking care of some old business here. We had already repealed the amendment and we installed the new law, but we never got around to repealing this old law. So I'm going to open the public hearing right now if there's anyone who wants to comment on this specific subject. Didn't think so. I thought you were all here for another subject. Okay, if there's no one has a comment, I'll close the public hearing on that. We do have a resolution later in the meeting to repeal that law. So. All right. Next public hearing is on EMS in Ticonderoga. I'll open the public hearing now. I just have a few comments first. We did hold a public workshop on February 2nd regarding EMS. We exchanged a lot of great information. I learned a lot. We had a lot of subject matter experts here to discuss the different areas of EMS. A lot of that information is on the website right now, on the town website, under the meeting section. And it was put there in anticipation of tonight's meeting. Last night, the Ticonderoga EMS had an open house. I'm sad to report only a few people showed up. It's unfortunate. I'm sure Lamoille is also open to anyone who wants to go in and ask questions about EMS services and what they provide or entail. They'd be happy to do that. Events like this, these open houses and other events like this is your opportunity to ask questions, learn information, and make informed, and I repeat, informed decisions. So it's unfortunate that only a few people chose to participate last night. It's important for the board to hear everyone's comments on this subject regarding EMS. EMS is no different than any other service like police and fire. When you need it, you need it. And unfortunately, as I've said in the past, those services come with a cost. I caution everyone regarding what you may believe this service costs and how it can be funded. Fundraisers are certainly beneficial, but you're not going to pay an the EMT salary by having a big sale. Grants are great. They help alleviate expenses, but you do not plan an effective budget based on grants, which are not guaranteed revenue year after year. So the town in the past has supplemented some of Ticonderoga EMS funding. Like one or 2 years it was $30,000. Last year it was $70,000. These are not the actual costs of EMS. These were Band-Aids. Were funded for some shortfalls. So please don't think that that's what it costs. EMS service, a full EMS service can cost anywhere from $300 to $500 or $1,000 a year or more, depending on a number of factors. The town does feel a moral responsibility in this area to do what we can to provide services to residents. Whatever's in our authority and capability to do. Basically, we have, the town board has 3 funding options here. One is to take no funding action, and when you dial 911, whatever the responding agency is, whether it be local or remote, responds. The second would be to establish an EMS district. The third would be to fund an EMS service through appropriations, basically through the budget. Option 2 and 3 really involve the same amount of money, it's just how it's funded and collected. The whole subject of EMS districts has been discussed a number of times. There's a lot of information. I have put some information on the website. There is other information out there. You feel free to talk to your EMS providers and learn about that. But right now, I'll open the floor to those who have questions or comments and want to speak about the subject. Go ahead, Laura.
All right. So before I speak tonight, I wanted to say that my comments are not directed towards specific people. I am removing people out of this equation because we're talking a longevity issue, and in 5 years, the people in these organizations may be changed. I'd also like to say that I'm not an expert in this situation. I took some time and did some research, read the notes of the recent EMS workshop, spoke with individuals at Tide EMS at length, and have spoken to some of my friends about their experiences. What I have to say is my opinion, and is not necessarily the opinion of my husband, who happens to be the town supervisor. I'm in total favor of funding the Ticonderoga EMS. In 2014, the town of Lockport, New York, a population of just over 20,000 people, made cuts to their town budget, which resulted in the loss of their town-funded ambulance service. A for-profit ambulance company expanded their services to cover Lockport, so ambulance services continued. Just last month, due to staffing shortages, the for-profit ambulance company discontinued coverage of Lockport. At this time, Lockport has no local ambulance coverage, and times to reach patients from other towns is on the average over 30 minutes. The town is now scrambling, trying to decide what to do. Before this situation happened in Lockport, I was not in favor of turning our emergency services completely over to a for-profit company, in this case Lamoille. Our Tide EMS is struggling because of the costs that they cannot bill for and the calls that cannot be billed. Lamoille has stated they would take over all of the calls, and I would assume that includes the calls that can't be billed, resulting in costs to Lamoille that would result in lost monies. As a for-profit, monies can be moved around from other parts of the company to compensate, but I would imagine that wouldn't be sustainable. Lamoille stated in a letter to the town that they have been here since 1996 and will remain in Ticonderoga regardless of the decision made by the town board. I would like to take them up on that and ask them to stay in their current capacity, with Tide EMS being the primary ambulance service in town, and thank them for their continued service. But how does the Tide EMS get funded? I have seen previous town leadership put our EMS leaders through a dog and pony show, making them provide information that is just not necessary to get a measly $20,000 or $30,000 check for their annual funding. I'm witnessing current town leadership addressing this issue with much more respect and support. I am mentioning this because this indifferent support, depending on government leadership at that time, is one of the reasons I am leaning towards a district for the Tide EMS. The funding of such an imperative service to our residents should not depend on how the town leaders happen to be feeling in that particular term, or creative funding as is being promised by others. As I understand it, the town would still be involved in the budgeting of the EMS district, but not in the same way as appropriations. Again, I'm not an expert in this, and I'm continuing my research on this piece. Other reasons for a district: the tax levy base would be expanded to include some exempt properties who are currently not paying property taxes. If we did not go with a district and just funded Tide EMS through budget appropriations, these exempt properties would not be taxed. A district, based on my research, would be more of a guarantee of longevity for our Tide EMS. We have a fire district, and there is no discussion about how important this service is, and I have never ever heard someone talk about doing away with it. I don't want the Tide EMS to have to fight for survival every year, or even every 10 years. Let's put things in place now to ensure our children, grandchildren, and their children are able to benefit from Tide EMS. A district would be a more stable career choice for those up-and-coming EMTs and EMS staff. So what has changed, you ask, for this to suddenly become such a major financial issue? Tide EMS has been an important fixture in Ticonderoga for over 74 years. More than likely, each and every one of us has known someone that volunteered or worked for the Tide EMS over those 74 years, and some of you, yourselves, volunteered for the Tide EMS. According to a letter submitted to the town by Tide EMS, some of the biggest concerns revolves around the lack of volunteerism. Some people have multiple jobs to make ends meet, but are still required to spend hours of their own time training. There are only so many hours in a day, and something has to give. Volunteering does not pay your bills. A few years ago, Essex County required paid staffing to ensure the best chance of avoiding drop calls. They paid for the funding for the first year, but now payroll falls on Tide EMS. This, along with skyrocketing costs for medical supplies, utilities, and etc., has resulted in a huge financial hit to our beloved Tide EMS. New York State and Medicaid restrictions have only added to the negative financial impact. Our ambulances have gone from a vessel used for transport to the local hospital to a mobile hospital, which requires higher skill levels and additional training for the squad. As some notes I have read stated, back in the day, nursing was a completely volunteer movement, and you can see where that has ended up today. The heart of Tide EMS continues to beat through the passions of those currently working there. Even with paid staff, in 2022, 4,485 volunteer hours were put in at Tide EMS. Now, if that doesn't speak of the passion and care that these folks have to take care of our residents in their time of need, I don't know what would. There is also a commitment to continue a level of volunteer hours, even as a district, to help cut down on funding needs. Multiple towns around us, Schroon Lake, Warrensburg, Lake George, and others, have turned to a district for their emergency medical services. Districts are becoming a sign of the times. Tide EMS has had 5 people recently pass testing to advance their skill sets, and in some cases put them in a position to make this their career path. Let's face it, we're not getting any younger. I turned 60 this year, and whether I like it or not, I'm now being labeled as part of the aging group. And my medical needs are changing, and not for the better. My likelihood of needing to call 911 is more likely now than ever before. I personally cannot afford to wonder if my emergency medical services will be around as I age. I have enough things to stress about. And talking about stress, how are we going to pay for guaranteed services? We are already taxed plenty. The Tide EMS lawyer stated the average annual increase in our taxes for a district would be around $50 per household. Again, I'm just repeating this number. This is not a number that I came up with. So as difficult as our personal finances may be, you have to ask yourself if an average of $50 per year or 14 cents a day is worth it. To know that Tide EMS would be able to take care of us, our loved ones, and our friends. You get the picture. I don't want one of those people to not be in a picture I take next year because the ambulance service wasn't available.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes.
I want to come up here. Yeah, please.
Before I go too far, I want to tell you I'm all for the EMS group, okay? But I'm also for the people of the community that are stuck with taxes. And this year, they got hit pretty good. So I'm going to tell that to you right up front. Before you even talk about appropriations, you know, with adding more money and taking more taxes from people here, you have to really think about this, okay? Number one, you need a referendum. If you're going to add a tax, you need to let people, every property owner, okay, decide that they're okay with it. You don't just get a handful of people that say, we're going to do it, and then do a resolution and pass it. My suggestion is, I have a check sheet here that I just threw together. They can be done in a 3x5 card. Take this, look at it, send out a check sheet to every property owner in town, and let them decide if they're okay with this. And if they are, wonderful. But if they're not, then we have to find another way to support this. Mark, I'm going to tell you something. I had 2 people in this town that couldn't pay the property taxes, and I wrote cashier's checks out to them for it. I have a couple of people that couldn't pay the water and sewer taxes, and I handed them $276 in cash. We have a lot of people like that. We have to look at the whole, okay? 60% of our people are living on fixed income for retirees. They are. We know that. Just deciding that they're going to bring the cap up, take more money out of their pockets. $50 is not going to be $50 for long. It's going to be 70, it's going to be 80, it's going to be 100.
What do you base that
I'm just telling you, it never stays the same. If you're telling me $50 is gonna be $50 for 10 years, I
I'm
don't
not telling you
believe it.
anything, I'm asking you to base
I'm just,
your
because,
information on fact.
because you raise assessments, okay, you raise property taxes, school taxes, all that. So tell me that that's not gonna go beyond $50. You can't tell me that. I'm not gonna try to prove it, I don't need to, because it'll happen. Our assessments went up because of poor management of our money. We're paying more. I know people, Mark, let's get real. I know people here, and this all goes back to this, that got $10,000 assessment increase, $20,000.
This isn't to
30.
discuss
No,
assessments.
it does, because it comes back to this
If you would
money.
like to discuss the EMS service,
This is what
you
I'm
have
talking-
something to turn in, give it to the
Yeah,
town clerk.
this is what I'm talking, okay? It's money, okay? And you can't keep taking it off the backs of the taxpayers without trying to find another way. I'm all for the people, okay? I am not for wasteful spending and
Okay, this
adding
is not,
taxes
this
that
is
are
not a
not needed.
campaign platform for your
No.
personal agenda. If you have
It's not.
something to turn into the town clerk, please turn it in, we will look at it.
I want to make sure
And this
we're
meeting
clear.
is for the public to express their opinion on how to fund EMS.
And that's just what I told you,
Excellent, turn it
okay?
in.
I'm going to give you the check sheets, but you need a referendum. Do not just randomly get a handful of people and say, we're going to pass it. Don't do that.
I appreciate
Because,
your-
right, because that will cause more grief than you know.
Why
Okay,
don't
and
you
here's the check
volunteer?
sheets.
Why don't you volunteer
Volunteer for what?
for EMS?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm retired.
Yeah, well, I am too.
Yeah,
I worked 40 years.
No, we're not going down that route tonight.
Here's the check sheets that I would like you to enter in. Take a look at them. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, appreciate that.
Mark, could I go? Can I
Yes.
step in here? So, as Mark stated earlier, this is a platform to hopefully educate the people of Ticonderoga about what's presently going on. Laura, thanks for your input on the deal. But what I'd like to do is take a few minutes to talk about where Ticonderoga presently is with EMS, right? We have two separate EMS services in Ticonderoga. One is EMS, which historically provides 911 services. So when a resident of Ticonderoga dials 911, the chances are that EMS is going to show up at your doorstep and provide whatever service needs to be provided, either in-home, and then if needed be, they'll take you to the local emergent care center, which, keep in mind, Ticonderoga is not a hospital anymore, right? It's an emergent care unit. If service is provided there and it's determined that you need to be transported to a large facility, historically, Lamoille has provided that service over the past several years. That's their business plan. They provide transports to and from the larger facilities, Plattsburgh, Burlington, Glens Falls, maybe Middlebury. On occasion, if EMS is unavailable on a different call and they can't make a 911 call, then it falls to mutual aid, which means that Lamoille may show up at your doorstep to provide that 911 service. On the other hand, if for some reason Lamoille is unavailable to make a transport, then EMS may be called upon to do so. EMS last year did 700, I think, calls, 911 calls. Of those, I think Lamoille maybe serviced 6, I think if the number's right, about. And I think EMS maybe did less than a handful of transports. I think that's fair to say, 15 transports. Okay, fair enough. So the issue here is 911 service as a business plan has become very difficult when you're providing mostly 911 calls. Many of those calls are unable to be collected for. You can't collect. So if you show up at somebody's doorstep, for example, and it's an overdose, and EMS shows up and provides care, person wakes up and they don't want to go to a facility, then you either can't bill for it or they don't have insurance. EMS also provides a service, so if somebody falls down in their home and they show up, then they don't bill for that service. Where Lamoille's business plan, providing transports, right, is almost always a billable service, and they must always get proper revenue for that, covers their cost, where 911 does not always. So even when they can bill for it, and they bill for insurance purposes, the insurance doesn't always cover their cost. In 2022, EMS had a net loss of $145,000. it appears that this year, and they have held their salaries and costs and froze them for 2023 to keep their costs down. And they haven't added any paid staff this year. And they're still showing an anticipated loss. Of course, you don't know what their revenue is going to be because you don't know how many calls they're going to get, but assuming that things stay average, they're going to show another loss of $150-ish $1,000, maybe more. I would anticipate that in 2024, because they will unfreeze salaries, they'll have to make up that difference, and they will move eventually to a fully paid staff, as people have said that's the direction it's going to, because the amount of training that staff members have to take and perform to ride on an ambulance is increasing, and those are requirements by New York State, some of it are federal requirements, that people are making a career out of EMS, and volunteerism is dropping off, and they will go to a paid staff, which means that their cost is going to increase. So I would anticipate, and in fact I would ask EMS to look at a 2024 anticipated budget with the potential increased staff dollars, and what salaries might be next year, and get an idea for that cost. It would not surprise me to see their deficit in 2024 go from $150,000 to $250,000. That would be my estimate. Haven't seen their budget. That's a guess on my part. So, with that being said, EMS has come to the board, and the reason we're here today is to discuss a few options. Right? One option which has been discussed is form a district. That district is, as mentioned, very similar to a fire district, but slightly different because it is still billable. So if there's a district formed, their full budget goes into the tax base and is recovered. And as they perform 911 services or transports and bill for it, that revenue would come into the town to offset those expenses. But you would still have whatever deficit was being run. The town would have to cover through a tax levy. So the beginning balance for year one would probably be the entire operating budget for EMS, which is presently about $500,000, $500,000 or so, if I'm correct on that. That would probably go up, but the fact is that it costs them a certain amount of money to perform their business, and their business plan on 911 is relatively unsustainable as a business plan because, as we said, 911 calls are hard to recover from as a standalone business plan. So the proposal from EMS is one, either form a district and or fund their losses through annual budget line item in the budget, which we've done in the past, as Mark stated, $30,000 or $70,000 depending on the situation. So what the town is faced with is a couple of options. As Mark said, we can do nothing. Doing nothing would mean that it appears that EMS would not be sustainable for the next 12 months, maybe 18, maybe sooner, and they would be out of business because you can only lose money for so many years and you go out of business. That's just a fact. We can support them through a tax district, which would take at least a year, probably, I think, to form, so that wouldn't get formed until 2024 going forward. We can say that we don't think that funding EMS is sustainable, and we can move toward setting up a contract with Lemoyle. Lemoyle has put a proposal into this town, and their proposal is presently $2,000 a month to perform and pick up the 911 services. That's what's presently on the table. So those are the things that we need to discuss, and this is why we are where we are today. So we have to decide as a community, and it will not be up to this town board fully to make that decision. It's going to be a decision by the community, and we're here to try and make sure that we can answer any questions. EMS is here, Lemoyle's here to answer questions if they need to be. But that's where we are, and those are the three options that we have. Do nothing, let the cards fall where they may, form a tax district, or fund EMS through funding, or set up a contract with MOA. And those are really the options, unless there's another one that I can think of. Personally, to me, the long-term solution to this problem, which is being faced by many communities around the deal, is for the county to pick up EMS services and have a county-funded EMS service. I don't think that's going to happen. Certainly not going to happen anytime soon. But that, to me, would be the proper way to have EMS and then have strategic locations around the county for the ambulances to be housed and staffing to be provided. But again, that's not the situation we're in. It's not a short-term fix, and it may never come to pass. But that's where we are. I wanted to get that out there to try and avoid some of what we had just went through, so that people understand why we're here and the present situation and the path moving forward. So that's what I've got to say.
That's good. I would like to point out that the notes from our EMS workshop I put on the webpage. I think there's a lot of information there that everyone should look at, especially in terms of what Medicaid and Medicare, what that involvement is, what you can recover, what you cannot recover, what New York State laws allow you to recover and not recover, so that you have a full understanding of why it is difficult to recover revenue from EMS type of activity. I think if you haven't seen that already, you probably should take a look. Who else would like to speak? Renee?
I'm just gonna piggyback off of yours. My name's Samantha Motley, some of you may know me. I've been a volunteer at Tiny EMS for 2 years. I just recently became paid staff as I passed my EMT course. I do other volunteer activities around the community, well-known family. I just wanted to say that volunteerism is going down, but in your statement, I heard a lot of probablys and maybes about financials. We can't go off probablys and maybes. I know as me, becoming a new EMT, I'm very passionate about the town and what I am doing. I, for sure, will be volunteering half what I do now. You know, I'm getting paid full-time, volunteering. I'm gonna do 40 hours volunteer, or whatever it may be. If they need calls picked up, I'm going to volunteer. I know that it's hard to live on a smaller income. I'm a college student, I'm paying out of pocket. I understand it. So volunteerism is still there. There are still people in this town that have the heart for it. My grandmother used to volunteer for Tiny EMS. It goes back many, many years. So we can't base off of probablys and maybes of volunteerism going down. Yes, it's going to, but that doesn't mean that we're going to increase whatever we need by a quarter or a double. And it's not going to happen that quick within 2024. So those probably and maybes need to stop. There is volunteerism, there are still people that have passion, and I've seen it. Tiny EMS is a big family. We care about everyone that we're there for, and including ourselves. And it's something that has given me a lot of drive to do everything that I'm doing today.
I appreciate your comment. Thanks for your service, and congratulations on your recent accomplishment.
Thank you.
All right, this is, I don't know if you guys received this, but this is just a letter from the Essex County EMS in support of us. I think I sent it to you, Mark.
Yeah, and I did send it to you electronically,
You did?
but you can go ahead and pass it.
Okay, where to stand?
Just close to the mic so she can
Okay.
record it.
Okay, If anybody, good evening, my name is Renee Kennedy, if nobody knows who I am. Currently, I'm the operations manager for Ticonderoga Emergency Squad, and also an employee at Essex County. As we know, fire, police, and EMS services are a necessary part of the community. Ticonderoga EMS has been in service for 74 years strong, which has been repeated. It's approximately 5 years ago when Ticonderoga EMS and the surrounding communities had a significant number of drop calls, which were answered by Lamoille Ambulance Service and other mutual aid services. The county created a grant that would help in providing staff to agencies in need. It was a decision of the board to take advantage of what the county was offering. This put two full-time employees in our station for daytime coverage. Through this difficult time, volunteers continued to put countless hours in to serve the community when needed. This program was a huge success for Ticonderoga EMS, but we knew this wouldn't be enough. With call volumes continuing to rise and volunteers starting to minimize, we needed to look at our future. We needed to put more paid staff on to cover the night shifts along with weekend coverage. Volunteers continued to provide as much support as they could. However, it was obviously, like any other surrounding communities, providers needed to start working two different jobs to make ends meet. We are so proud to announce that for the past 3 years, we've had no drop calls. This is a huge accomplishment for Ticonderoga EMS when we were dropping 240 calls 4 years ago. We couldn't have done this without the help of the county program and adding more paid staff on, but most important, volunteers continue to put in countless hours. A challenge for every EMS agency in the United States is providing cost-effective and timely treatment for patients when in need. Just like every other business that was affected, inflation, the cost of providing help to others has increased. The cost of medication, supplies, insurance have increased by 9% this year. Ticonderoga EMS has some fantastic ideas for fundraising events for 2023. We have applied for equipment grants to repair or update current life-saving equipment. We have increased our billing rates and explored the option of following up with those patients who have not met their financial obligation. However, these efforts will only cover a small amount of the expense of Ticonderoga EMS. In the past 5 years, our agency has been gravely underfunded. Partly that's our fault for not coming forth each year and asking for more. We are one of the largest call volume agencies in the county. Comparable to Lake George during the summer, our call volume increases dramatically due to the numbers of tourists and summer residents that provide a boost to our community's economic. Our budget is transparent. We as an organization and the board of directors allow any member of the community the opportunity to review our budget, which we have copies of our budget here. Anybody that would like to look at the copy of our budget, we will happily pass it out to anybody who would like it. There is nothing to hide. Ticonderoga EMS has come to the town board to ask for assistance, either through appropriation of funding or creating a tax district. It is true, Lamoille Ambulance Service has placed 2 bids in to provide service for the town of Ticonderoga for a much lower price, but we can't help ask ourselves why. Why does the multi-million-dollar corporation need to cover Ticonderoga 911 calls, knowing that Ticonderoga will not be around without financial assistance? Both services are needed in the town. Lamoille has played a very crucial role in transporting patients to the area hospitals where they can receive definitive care. Lamoille has a very crucial role in providing expert ALS mutual aid to several other agencies. If their availability is limited, who wins? Not the patient. Patient care is the most important thing. Residents may be waiting longer for life-saving measures. I think both agencies working together, and this is evident in the reduction of drop calls in the Ticonderoga in the last 3 years. Thank you for your consideration.
Anyone else? Yeah.
wanted to make 2 comments tonight. One, as the executive director of Pride of Ticonderoga, and also then as a mother of 5 who lives and resides here with her family, a young family here in Ticonderoga, just right up the road from our local EMS station. One of the comments that I did want to give some support to that's been thrown around is that grant funding to support emergency services is not predictable. I spent, after I received your call on the phone, which I apologize I haven't returned, I spent at least 10 hours looking up grants that we could potentially apply for, just for like staff and general operating costs, not equipment costs. They do not exist anywhere in this state that I could find. And I'd be happy to show you a few grants that I found specifically for equipment costs, but again, that is not guaranteed funding every year, and it's not going to help with operating costs. And so I did just want to make sure that that was made clear to the community, because I don't want folks to kind of have a red herring that there's opportunities for funding elsewhere. I really, professionally speaking, only see the funding that you all really truly need to function appropriately through an EMS district or appropriation. But more personally, as a mother of 5, we moved to Ticonderoga, and one of the things that made me so confident about our move was that we had a local EMS right down the road from us. Very heavily pregnant, an hour plus from where I could deliver when Saoirse was born. Just last year, my daughter, who's 6, her name's Ida, was eating a lollipop that she'd gotten from school, and she started to choke. And it was the most terrifying moment of my life, even though I'm in Heimlich maneuver and first aid. She almost turned blue, to the point where we were about to call 911. And it filled me with fear, but I knew that if we had to get to that point, you all would be there. Not another agency that's not from our community and staffed by our community, but somebody who's reliable, who's trained, who knows the needs. And we need that if we want to continue to attract young families to move to this area, that they have the assurances that the town is potentially invested in making sure those emergency services are available, and that they're available at a fair cost to the many people that we provide help to. And a number of people struggle to pay their medical bills, and so it does concern me with other agencies, depending on what their billing may be, if our local residents would be able to pay their bills or be going into medical debt. And that's something more professionally on a daily basis I deal with when people come to Pride for financial help with various housing and budgeting issues. So these are just a number of concerns I did want to speak publicly about, and thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
So I'm Tanya, and I'm the operations manager for Lamoille. And I think that's a great question, how billing works. So we follow federal guidelines. If we take you in the ambulance and you fall under poverty guidelines, we write off balances. We're not like Ty, though, where when we go to the call and you don't get transported, yeah, we're not going to get paid either. Question I would have is, out of 700 calls, how many of those are, non-transports where you're not taking them anywhere?
120.
Okay, so that's probably like 300 hours of time that you lost your money for. I think the biggest thing we want to do is let people know we are here. And, you guys could go another 5 years, you could go another 20 years, you could go another 70 years. But if something happened and you guys weren't here, it would put a strain on Lamoille, whether or not we could maintain a crew all the time. It's a priority if we were to be contracted, we would have a crew in town. But I think realistically, you can say you're at the Crown Point, you've got another crew that has a call. If it's a 2-call-a-day basis, which is kind of what I think, right? 365, so it's a little bit more than 700. Then you're really stretched thin, right? At 3 calls.
Well,
so
that's what the mutual aid system's for.
Right, exactly. So, we're here, and then you have a couple other backups, sort of. So, I mean, what is it really that you guys would like? I mean, is there something we can do to be more helpful to you guys? I mean, I think realistically, I said to Mr. Wright on the phone, we should be working together.
Absolutely.
If you need an ALS intercept, we're there for you. I think we've proven that. I think the question is from what I'm hearing from everybody that's talking, is how much is it gonna cost for you to stay alive? And I know, running Lamoille, that if you had 600 calls and, let's say 400 of those were billable, then you're looking at maybe $300 a call. So you got, 120,000. Can that fund an EMS service? Probably not. I mean, in 5 years, that's a truck, and now they're up to $300,000-$400,000 for a brand new Ford. It's a big expense. I had this conversation with Mark, and then I called to get us a new ambulance, and it doubled in price. Went from 105 to 205. They doubled the cost of putting a stretcher and a lift in it, which is, you gotta have these, because I mean, otherwise you have to hire specific people that can lift these patients. And how many people go out in injury depends on how many calls you can do, and I think the reality of things is, this is great that there's 2 services in one town. I think for us, we'd like to do some 911s. And because you took the Crown Point contract, which, that is what it
Can I
is.
just stop you there? We didn't take the Crown Point contract.
Right, you received it. I'm sorry.
We were approached by Crown Point to put in a bid, and they asked for our services.
Right,
We did not go to them and say, can we have your town?
right. I'm saying I heard the question of, like, why are we interested in it? Why do we care about it? And why can we do it for $20,000? Well, we're already fully staffed. We have, 3 crews, 4 crews on every day, people in town. So, yes, we'd like to do some 911 calls. That's what it really boils down to. I mean, we would be able to train our paramedics better when we get new people in, train the AEMTs better. If they don't have 911s to go on, then they have to be at other services in other towns running their 911 calls so they can get 911 experience. Because you can't just take a brand new paramedic, put them on the truck, send them up to the hospital, and hope that they're going to have a good transport. It takes a lot of experience. I mean, I'm sure any of you that are running on the trucks know that you could have seen one call 10 times and you go there, and then that one call is not like the other 10. And so, granted, I don't ever want to see an ambulance service go out of business or go away or not be funded. I think that we would just like to be here, and maybe, if it's an ALS call, we get called out for it, so that we can start training the newer people we're trying to bring in. Otherwise, we can't offer or attract people to be here that are of those higher CERBs. And I think for you guys, and I'm not presuming to know what it's like, but for you to go up to the hospital and do a long distance transport somewhere 50 miles, 60 miles, or all the way to Albany is too much. Then your people are out of town a lot.
Well, right now, we are not doing transports because 911 comes first.
Right.
So,
And granted, my people do get a lot of experience on the truck doing the calls out of the hospital, but they also need the other experience. And I can tell you, most paramedics do not want to work for a service that doesn't do 911 calls. And it did say in our letter, we're not going anywhere. We came here because this town needed help, and we're staying here because I feel like we do offer a lot to the town. Whether or not we'd be sustainable without you, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of research out there that says there's all these towns with 2 services, because there really isn't. I mean, can anybody think of another town that has 2 services? No, it's phenomenal for this community. And I'm excited. I just think if there was a way where we could do some 911 so that we could train people on what it's like to go out on a 911 call and not be shipping them out to other areas to learn this, and then they're not here to help. Because on average, we do 2 calls a day. So if there's 4 calls in a day, and I'm just saying out of tie, on average, then, maybe it's possible we could do a certain amount of 911 to be able to train our people. It's something you can think about. Again, I'm here for anybody that has any questions too. As far as billing goes, it's a hard road, and everybody knows it. We have a contract with Ty right now for ALS runs. When we set it up to be fair. If they don't get paid, we're not billing them, because how can they pay us for something they didn't get paid for? If they got paid less than $200, I believe we don't charge you. right?
$400.
$400. We don't charge them. Because the sustainable rate for a call is $400. So when you're getting paid $300 about for what they're doing for runs, you're losing $100 per run. So if they do 580 payable runs, they lost, well, times that by 100, so 58,000 is gone and just lost revenue. And it is Medicare and Medicaid. And I heard a statement, and I'm sorry, I don't know who it was, about being paid for all the calls coming out of the hospital. There's a third of them that are either uninsured or New York Medicaid. New York Medicaid's $100. That's what you're gonna get. And then, I don't know, like $2 or $3 a mile. So you're losing money even moving the bus. And sustainable, I don't think EMS is sustainable at all anymore. Whether you're private, volunteer, I don't think it matters. I think the government itself, much bigger than this room, has to make better decisions. And, you know, again, it's not my place to tell you what to do, but you got a fire department, start training those fire guys to do medic calls. You know? I mean, and that's not helpful to us if we want to do 911, but realistically, they already got a budget. Right? I mean, so there's some places to go to pick up some employees. I mean, most fire departments now are running medics. So we run one truck and not two, less equipment. And I don't know if anybody has any questions for me, but I'd love...
I just got one statement.
Sure.
I'm a commissioner for Crown Point.
Oh, okay.
And we did contract with Ty. We approached them to put in a bid.
Yep.
One of the reasons was because your people weren't really, I want to put this nicely, did not treat our people, our first responders, with any respect.
Okay.
And I know you know about this because Cindy had tried to get a hold of you, our chairperson.
Cindy said she sent an email, I never got it, and then she didn't follow up after we talked.
She sent like 3 or 4 of them requesting.
And I gave her my
The guy that
direct
was in
email,
charge
and never
wanted to.
received anything.
Yeah.
And granted, I'll be honest with you, for every 5 good calls we get where people call and tell me how great it was, I'll get a call that says, you know, so-and-so didn't do this.
Yeah, well,
And so I'm sure you guys also get complaints from patients. If not, then somebody's not communicating, you know, because I mean, not every call goes wonderfully. I mean, I think people, you can tell me yourself, but people go on a call, they put in as much energy as they can to help that patient, and sometimes it's enough and sometimes it's not. And I'm not sure about the dialogue between the Crown Point
first responders.
first responders and our people, but you had a fire chief. Is it Dave?
Travis.
No. Maybe his one under him?
Brown.
The guy called me quite a few times and we talked about calls. I think
That'd
he's
be Travis Tabor.
Joe. Sorry, I don't know why I wanted to call him Dave. Joe. And we tried to work together. I think we even did a couple trainings after that to get all the employees. I think a lot of times we come onto a scene and they want to take control. And I think the deal is when we come onto a scene with another town, they're in control until they turn over care. You know, and I say this not very lightly, but I think all EMTs and first responders are kind of, this is my patient, you know, and so I'm not sure. I mean, I honestly didn't get the complaint from her, so I couldn't even tell you what it said. I'm sorry if you had a bad experience. I know that every time our people go out on a call, they're trying their best.
So just to clarify, you're stating that your billing, your insurance billing is exactly the same amount billing that Thai EMS bills per call for service. There's no like different.
In the rates?
Mm-hmm.
No, the rates, I don't know. What's Ty's rates?
$1,200 for a BLS call,
Okay, what's your mileage?
$32,
Okay, ours is 25, and
but we don't get the $32.
no. If that's what you're asking, no. Medicare pays $8.66 a mile. They pay $2.89 or $2.86 for the crew. That's a BLS charge. I'd have to pull out my rates to give you.
As far as rates, ours are lower than Thai's.
And
But it doesn't matter what the rate is,
It's
insurance companies are gonna pay what they pay, especially Medicare, Medicaid, participating providers in certain
Yeah,
ones,
let's not,
they only pay
let's
so
not
much.
focus on.
They're gonna pay the
rates.
same.
If you want to focus on costs in general, you know, Medicaid, Medicare, what they on, that's fine. Let's not get into the
No.
nitty gritty. We'll be here for the next week, so.
But just so I restate the idea of hardship. So that's what it's called, hardship paperwork. We make it very simple. It's not like the hospitals. It's 2 pages. It asks you for a tax return and asks you for your monthly income. And then what we do is we run it against the government scale. There's a guideline. And you may end up with I think it's around $1,700 like monthly income. It's automatically, it's a write-off. And then from there, it's a scale, and up to 100% of the bill is yours. And then we make payment plans with patients. Honestly, we have patients that pay us $5 a month, $10 a month, $50 a month. It depends on their bill. A private pay patient that needs a transport automatically gets a 30% discount right off the top, just like any other provider, like Blue Cross, and I'll be quick about the insurances. But on the long haul, if you didn't have insurance and you went in the ambulance and you make a certain amount of money, you're going to get a bill. But we're going to work with you. We don't have 6 months you have to pay it off. We kind of look at what you gave us for financials, and then we talk to the person and ask them, what can you afford to pay, what makes sense. Sometimes they pay a little bit until another bill's paid off, and then they pay more, but that's the long story short of how we deal with private pay. I don't know if that's helpful, if anybody has any questions.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mine is right, can I say something?
Yeah, come forward.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Tom Hooden. I'm a commissioner of Crown Point Fire District. Yes, we approached IMS for services. We had our reasons. Those are something I'm not going to get into tonight. If you want to know, come to a commissioner meeting, second Wednesday of every month. And my statement here is going to be very short. First and foremost, we do feel there is a significant conflict of interest between Lamoille Ambulance and Essex County Emergency Services. That's our one of the main reasons. But it's just real funny that I'm hearing tonight that they want to bill you $2,000 a month. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. We just came off a $30,000 a year contract with them. So I'm trying to figure out why all of a sudden they can drop.
Sir, we were charging you 20.
We paid 30.
Yeah, we don't need to get into those details.
But anyways, it was, I'm pretty sure it was 30,000.
Yeah.
But even that, we'd have to confirm it, but I'm pretty sure it's $30,000. That's what was in our budget. Anyways, so, we just, long story short, our relationship with Time S is the smoothest we've had doing calls right now. There's reasons, like I said before, but we support IMS, and we're a fire district, and taxes are going to go up. The fire service, the EMS service, police is a tough business, and every year the state pushes more. Equipment manufacturers keep jumping their prices, I mean obscenely. So there's always going to be cost increase. You can't do anything about it. You got to recover it somehow or other. Now I understand Lamoille, they're a big company. They can absorb some of that. How long can that go on for? $2,000 a month, I'm not really sure how that can go. But that's all I have to say, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So if Ticonderoga moved ahead with a district for EMS, right, that would be for the town of Ticonderoga. And there would then, of course, if Crown Point or any of the other surrounding communities wanted part of that service, they would have to enter a contract with Ticonderoga for us to supply services to you, and we would assume that would be based on a percentage of calls or something like that going forward, right? Which would mean that whatever you contract have with EMS right now, I have no idea what that is, but we're doing 700 calls with Ticonderoga. Ticonderoga Ticonderoga, Putnam, right? 700, how many?
We averaged, I think it was around 185 last year for EMS.
185,
Yeah.
okay, so if we had a $500,000 budget, you're 185 out of 700, that's 25%, so you would be asked, we would ask you to ante up 25% of whatever that cost was, so that would be something, just keep in the back of your mind.
Yep, we'd have to work on it. Well, when we entered our contract, we straightforward asked them, is this enough for you? Because what we were coming out from. And they were honest, they're like, they weren't sure. We got played out first time with us, doing this. They were like, they knew they were gonna absorb some costs. And, so we went into agreement. And everything's been great, no calls dropped. Our EMS our response has been phenomenal. So it's been really good. So, on a Crown Point end.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, Mark, I could belabor this with probably 6 million stories.
But you're not, right?
But I'm not going to, no. I've been in this room for far too long to do that. I mean, you look around, there's at least 1 to 2 stories probably per person here. I've got 3 personal minimum. I know Bobby, you've had, EMS, and there's probably plenty more here that have, so I think that's enough there. I think we need to also look at this as an economic issue as well. We're trying to get the town up and running. We're trying to increase our population. We're trying to get people to move here. We're trying to get businesses to come in. And it's very difficult to do that if you cannot show that you have adequate emergency services. When people look to move to a town, they are looking at schools, fire, and hospital and emergency services. Those are the things that people want in an area. And if we fail on any of those points, then somebody may not want to move here. If a business is looking to relocate here and they think that their employees or people that they bring in, may not be able to get adequate care, they may move on to somewhere else that will provide that adequate care. And that's a huge financial loss, especially around here, when every penny that we can get, we literally scrape for every penny we can get in support, in economic support. So I think we don't want to lose that sight of that part of it. You can tug at heartstrings all you want, but if you want to look at, just pure pennies, we need to make sure that we have adequate service for population growth and for economic and business growth. Because without it, we're going to be even farther behind the 8 ball, to be perfectly honest. And it's, we're already 6 to 10 miles behind the 8 ball as it is.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Bob?
Mike, you mentioned earlier there are 3 options. First option is do nothing, which would be the demise of the emergency squad. That's not an option. Besides, they have debt services on that building, which you'd have to consider also. Number 2, appropriations for the town. That's not an option. How can you can't afford $300,000. No town, no city can afford that. That's not an option. The only really option is to have a tax district. I guess my question is, how is that formed? Is it by town resolution or a public referendum? What's the process for that? And if they're already in debt, which they are, you want to try to move on this as quickly as you can, because there's going to be a certain period of time where that is going to have to go into effect. So you're going to have more debt built up. So I think if you're going to do this, you better move on this soon. And as far as, people who can't afford this, I don't know of one person in Ticonderoga that would have a difficult time, paying, would object to paying for emergency services. I don't care how poor they are. If you ask them, would you pay $50 or whatever it is to afford emergency services here in Ticonderoga, I can't believe anybody would say no. And if they did, they'd come to me, go to 106, he'll pay for it. I guess my question would be simply, how, is this a public referendum, or is this a board resolution, or how does this happen?
We've had the discussion, please, go ahead, give that skinny.
Yeah, very similar to the formation of a district, Bob, map plan report of the area that's gonna be served and who's gonna pay the tax. And it could be a permissive referendum, but with any permissive referendum, the town board has the authority by resolution to bypass a permissive referendum and put any item that is subject to a referendum up to a referendum.
So they would have, there's two options for that, Matt? Is that what you're saying to me?
No, it would be a map plan report, similar to forming any district, generally any district.
So generally, what length of time are you looking for to do that?
Somebody'd have to prepare the map plan report, I don't know what the time frame would be on that, I couldn't ballpark. To give you an example, we were, Lake George did it, right? So they did it a year or two ago, we represented the village, so we weren't directly in it, but the village board has to approve any EMS district in a town. And I wanna say theirs was, they did it for the year, it started the next year. So it isn't anything that would impose a tax this year.
Well, I would
It
say.
wouldn't you wouldn't be able, you can't budget it.
The longer you wait, the more debt you're in. So I would say, my recommendation would be try to move on this as quickly as possible.
The
I'm
district
sorry.
would have to start with the next budget cycle, which would be next year.
The district, with what our lawyers told us is, we could create it in 90 days, but it wouldn't start for 2023, obviously.
Right, I knew that.
Yeah.
But at least start it.
Yes.
Because if you don't start it, then you can't start 2023.
Right.
So start it. I guess that's my point.
Well, I should say too, that you were asking if the town board did the map plan report, taxpayers can petition. There's a petition process. So that, you know, if.
Like a water district.
Yeah, if the taxpayers got together and funded a map plan report, the taxpayers, if enough of them do it, can petition for the formation of a district. There's a town board group, and then there's a taxpayer initiated group.
Whatever was the quickest, Matt, as far as I can
Yeah, about the
say.
same
I guess
time.
I'm appealing to the board, whatever process quickest to get it done. So I hate to tread water. I'd like to have this done within the next year so we can move on it. Because there's nothing more comforting to call for an ambulance, and he's absolutely right. When they come to see two ambulances pull into my house, I mean, my golly, my wife just, her heart stopped, you know, but once they pulled in, it started again. So I mean, it's such a comfort to have an ambulance, and we have to have it, and I don't want to wait any longer we have to. Thank you.
Yeah, Bob, I just want to clarify one thing, just so you just are clear, that whether we fund it through appropriations, through a budget, or form a district, that cost is the same. You know what I'm saying? The deficit's going to be there. They're going to get whatever revenues they get back to the town. So if we fund their negative balance for 1 year, or we form a tax district, that cost, actual cost, is the same. So it's the same burden on the taxpayers, whether it's a district or not.
But the point is, there's more entities that would be putting into it the tax base if you went through.
A few more, so yes.
Well, quite a few more.
Tax exempt
I remember seeing a list of all the non-exempt properties in Ticonderoga. Whoa,
Yeah,
Correct.
and they would be included,
right, yes, that's true, It would expand the tax.
and it's pretty substantial.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the timeline on this with the board as far as making this decision? I know that I was watching the January meeting, and if I remember correctly, the discussion was that there was going to be a possible appropriations to the EMS for a short period of time to help them live through the year while you were making this decision. What is your timeline for that?
It's been discussed. That's something that we have to decide, at least if we're gonna do any kind of Band-Aid funding to tie EMS along the lines of sustaining them before we go into a district, that would have to be decided now. We kick the can down the road too long. So tonight, I would like to have a discussion as to whether we're gonna fund anything for tie EMS.
Even if it's just while you're deciding everything else, it's something that,
It would be a parallel effort.
yes.
I mean, Bob mentioned, you know, why would anyone not want to pay some amount of money for EMS? Is there anybody here? We're all here. Show of hands, who would willingly pay some of their tax dollars for an EMS service? Most of the majority is for it. Yeah, Wayne.
Hi, Mark. Yeah, I got just one question in terms of the district and who would oversee the district fiscal operation, and would there be elected officers or elected?
There'd be a board of
Trustees
commissioners, board of commissioners similar to the fire district, not the same. The commissioners could either be the board, or the board could assign separate commissioners. They would be in charge of reviewing the budget, paying the bills, similar to a.
And they would have like their own procurement policy that they would follow. I mean, that the district itself.
Yeah, the district would. The actual vendor of the service would run operations the way they run operations. Elect their own officers.
And one other question I had, would it be at all considered that Crown Point town proper be included in this district formation, and that the town EMS is trying to serve them now under contraction?
That's what we were just discussing, how that would get blended in terms of maybe an agreement or a contract with any outlying communities to be part of that. I don't know legally how other communities would be formed into the district. Would you have to have that planning board include that, or would they be just contracted, additional contracts? Yeah.
The ones I have, Raymond, Hadley, Day, are all contracts, all separate contracts.
Right, so
One question I had, who holds the certificate you need right now?
We have one for Crown Point.
I don't know, what for TAP?
Huh?
Do you have it for TAP? So you do the billing?
Yes. Yes.
yeah. So map planning report would cover Ticonderoga, and then there'd be additional contracts for any other outlying community that wanted part of that service.
Thank you.
If you did form a district, would you see that certificate of need going over to the town?
Going what?
To the town?
I don't know how that works. See why it would, but.
Maybe I'll check with the council, I think it has to, and it's just when you get into the map plan report, that poses some discussion for the town, because then the town becomes the biller, and that revenue becomes the town's, and.
I think our lawyer said the billing would stay the same with us,
So you would
if I
hold the
remember
certificate
correctly,
of need.
but I can ask.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what you've done.
that's good to know, because that's what we need the finance department to do, is start learning about them and that.
So I should say, the frame of reference, the town of Day, they have a building company.
Yes,
that does
we have a
it.
billing company.
But technically, that revenue comes to the town, and the town pays it right back.
But your attorney did say that tonight,
Yes.
you're willing to stay with you guys.
Yeah, so you guys would hold the certificate.
Anyone else? Are you sure? Right, one once. One twice. All right, if there's nothing else from the public, how does the board feel about any kind of temporary funding for tiny and that?
I'm definitely for it. I think they could start with 70, and then we'll move forward.
Is any money that we decide to give tiny MS like we've done in the past, we bumped it up this year or last year because of fund balance. That's not thoughts around the table. Now's the time to talk.
Well, my concern is putting a Band-Aid on it, as I think somebody had said, and then going down the road and finding out that the public doesn't want a district, and we're not gonna fund them, then we've just spent money and we've gotten nothing for it. But it's not just 70 grand now, it's 140 grand for the year, to keep them sustainable for the year was what their present budget indicates. So I think that's the number we need to be thinking about, whether it's spread over quarters or not. So that's my only concern, is just whether or not, I think we need to have a plan in place. It'd be nice to have a plan in place to know that we're gonna spend this money, and then we're gonna have a plan to keep it continuing, whether it's a tax district or continued funding next year, before we just decide to put some money in to keep them sustainable for 90 days and then see what happens after that. It seems like a stopgap.
My concern is that if we don't do something, we risk losing the service. I'll just give you my own personal opinion here. I'm just one of 5 here, but I am a resident. As far as I know, TIEMS is providing good quality service over the years. I'm willing to do anything legally, financially, and ethically to accomplish, accomplish this, to see that they survive. But not at the risk of making some unsound fiscal decision based on emotion alone. Or making any decision that doesn't benefit the residents of the Ticonderoga or violating my oath that I took when I took this job. If TIEMS has to cease to exist because of factors outside my control, this board's control, then that's just destiny. But if that occurs, TIEMS won't go away because I didn't try to do everything I could to see that it survived. We've talked about things that have changed prices, costs, volunteerism. I just think that we should do what we can to make them survive. And if that means this board giving $50,000 or $70,000 on that hope, then I'm in favor of that. But we need to actively pursue what we want to do about appropriation of the district. We need to stop kicking this thing down the road, and I won't use the phrase my mother used to use because it wouldn't be appropriate here. I just didn't make a decision. At one point, I was totally against the district for many reasons. I had more information. We had more information from the workshop, which I found beneficial. And there's some other things I'd like to clear up, but I'm bending now towards the district. I've heard the costs for a little while. I'll admit I do not understand them. I've heard the explanations, but I don't understand them. They are a private service. They set up shop in Ticonderoga many years ago. We value the fact that they're here and the fact that they support the town. But they are a private endeavor. No one asked them to settle here. We appreciate that they are here, but the town never offered to give them any money to remain here and set up a business. Again, I'm thrilled that they're here. As time has said, how many communities have 2 ambulance services? Some of them don't have any. But for me, I'm not crazy about throwing money out of fund balance, but if it gives us time and keeps them alive for a certain amount of time while we stop procrastinating here and actually make a decision on something, then I'm for it.
Well, it's pretty obvious to everybody in this room feels. And if somebody, for $70,000, if somebody in this room or one of their family goes down tonight, I want to make sure they're there. I don't know how everybody else feels, but.
I hear what Tom is saying, and he's right that we do have to be careful with money that we're throwing away, and are we just throwing it away for nothing? I believe we're not. My personal opinion is we're not throwing it away. We're using this as an insurance, a small insurance factor until we figure out what we're going to do in terms of a district or appropriation or whatever. And that's my thought. Please jump in. This is important that everyone puts it on the table what they're feeling right now.
I'm curious how many calls you have for Putnam, because we didn't discuss that.
58.
58? Yep.
Well, my 2 cents is I think we need to let the town of Ticonderoga decide this for us, not this.
No, I totally agree.
In the end, yeah.
And that's where we gotta be. We need to make that happen as soon as possible.
I mean, right now, they need help.
Because listening to what we're getting heard tonight, we got the best of both possibilities. I thought of that right along. We have a backup ambulance service, we have a full-time ambulance service. we need to continue that. We're a very lucky community to have that.
Right. Now, I totally agree the public has to give their opinion, but that means the public has to give a damn opinion. 8 people showed up at Thai EMS last night. Last time I looked at the county chart up there about the population of Ticonderoga, was more than 8. I mean, a lot of people showed up here tonight. There's a few people listening online. But, you know, this has to be a town decision. I mean, we're elected members, we represent the town, we do what we believe is best for the town. But there's gotta be some sort of input from the town as to what they're willing to bear.
I know what our options are, but we need to certainly figure them out.
I mean, I don't want the board to take action on a Thursday and have the town on a Friday say, well, it didn't work out, it's all your fault. Well, you know, there's some investment and responsibility from the residents here.
Yeah, and the other thing is, just to be clear for the residents, is forming a district is a long-term situation. It's not something you can form and realize 2 years later that, well, I wish I hadn't done that, and try to get out of it. It's not something you can turn around and unform.
I don't know why you'd want to.
I'm just saying that we're obligated at that point, right? The town is obligated at that point.
We have a district, the town becomes obligated to provide that service.
Right, regardless.
If all the vendors go away the next day, we are still obligated to provide some sort of service.
But a district can be dissolved.
It can be dissolved.
Can be, but it's
a process.
It's a process, right? It's a process.
It's like saying dissolving the fire district. It's ridiculous. Why you would want to dissolve it beyond me.
You have a question?
Are we still in public hearing?
Yeah, I haven't closed it.
Okay. So my concern as a member of the paying taxpayer base here is that if this goes solely 100% to the community for a decision, I have a concern with that. And that is because there are informed voters, there are uninformed voters, and there are Facebook informed voters. The last two are very bad. And so you're essentially putting the life of this group into the hands of people that don't have the right information to make their informed decision. If they have the right information and they choose not to support them, no problem. But you will have Facebook information, which is not correct. You have uninformed voters who didn't take the time to ask the questions, but will go to the polls. And then you have the people that take the time. And as a taxpayer, I am not okay with that, because these guys are in jeopardy based on misinformation and lack of information. And that's where my vote to put all 5 of you on this board comes into play. Because you, right now, are the most informed people in this community about this situation.
We're not shirking our responsibility in regards to making a decision, but we want the public to say, we want to know what the public wants.
So if we do a referendum and the
will have
public
to vote
votes
eventually.
no,
Then it's done.
the town cannot finance it through the budget?
Oh, that'd be good.
We could find out, so I guess it's a question that I got for Matt, because you had talked about a map plan report and who would pay for that, right? So if the town decided to move forward with looking into a district, would the town have to hire somebody to create a map plan and report in conjunction with Thai EMS? Is that right?
Not necessarily Thai EMS, they're probably using some of that data, and maybe Lemoyle and wherever else they get their data. Different municipalities, comparable.
Right. So that's an expense the town would incur to create that map plan report, which would then get us to a point that the town eventually would come to a referendum and have to vote on it, right?
There's a permissive referendum.
Permissive referendum.
Yeah, or the town board could put it out to referendum on its own.
Right, but it would still come to a town vote, right?
So if the town voted no on the referendum, the district is dead.
Correct.
The town cannot resurrect that.
Correct.
But the town can fund it through budget, appropriations.
Which would, I think, be a little difficult at the time come to pass, because if the voters elected not to fund Thai EMS through a district, they probably wouldn't want to fund it through
But that's not what they're being asked.
a... Well, it is, it's the same thing.
They're
It's
being
money,
asked
it's
about
all
a
money.
district.
District is taxes, money. and it's taxes, whether it's paid through fund balance or paid through appropriations in the tax or through a district. It all comes down to dollars.
As a taxpayer, I would like my elected officials to make this decision. Have a workshop for the community to put their input in. But again, you guys are the most
We had a
informed,
workshop, the
so,
community could have participated and listened.
so that's just where I stand as a taxpayer. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
What is we make a motion?
Anybody can put a motion on the floor.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we fund $70,000 for, until we can proceed with the district and get.
Anybody want to?
Well, I'm just saying that doesn't take us through the whole year. And it's gonna take a year to put the district in.
What is the deficit?
Well, there's a motion on the floor.
I'm just gonna say
Are you making it?
Yeah.
I'll second it. Discussion. If you have something to say, now is the time to say it. Can't believe none of you have something to say.
No, can I say something?
Not right now.
Oh.
Let's get through this now, Larry. All right, then I'll call all in favor. Aye. Let's do a roll call.
Yeah. Dave Woods,
Yes.
Mark Wright,
Yes.
Joyce Cooper,
Yes.
Tom Thatcher,
Yes.
Tom Cunningham.
No.
Okay. Motion carries. All right, but as I said, we need to have a serious discussion, not right now, because we don't have that much time, but what we want to do, district or appropriation.
I mean, there's a lot of questions that come tonight, we gotta answer them. We gotta move forward, you can't just leave them hanging.
That doesn't answer the question.
All right, this $70,000, we're gonna want to see how Thai EMS revenue expenditures goes over the next, probably the next quarter. We'd like to work closely with you. At the same time, in a parallel effort, we'll discuss what we want to do regards to a district or non-district, but we can't wait any longer. And as we said, if the district is that's the decision to go, then it would hopefully, if everything's done in time, it would begin in the next budget cycle for 2024.
Just to be clear, you're gonna do that by contract amendment, right? That's what you're talking about.
Have to have a contract
Yeah.
if you're gonna fund it.
Are there any other, did you want to make a comment?
Okay.
Any other comments before I close the public hearing? Awful quiet crowd, considering the number of people. Oh, yeah.
I just want to say, I've been a member since 1978, that's back in the old days. We were all volunteers, all volunteers. I had 5 kids, lots of times you left them with somebody else to go on a call. It's important that the men who began TES so many years ago, Bud Dahlbeck, Lawrence Hulbert, all those guys who started with nothing, an old hearse, and that this Thai EMS survives. It is part of my life, and I want to see it survive. And if I had the money, I'd give it to you, but I don't, so. Because I had 5 kids.
Fair enough. All right, this is really the last call, I think. All right, I'm closing the public hearing. Thank you.
If anybody feels sickly, now's the time to go.
Well, they don't have the
All right, now that the public hearing is over.
Yeah, it's parked outside.
Starts the meeting.
Part of the public discussion.
Yes, no.
Enough. You guys should talk. You guys should talk.
I'm sorry.
Have a discussion.
I mean, you could bump that pillar down, like half of that.
That chair wasn't available.
Hi, Bob. How are you? Forgive the outburst.
Okay, yeah, I lived there long and I happened to call from my I can send you my audit, I just finished it.
Okay. I just want to know what programs they're in.
Yeah, no problem.
Underage person?
How's the restaurant?
Good. Put some flooring down in there.
Somebody was talking about, your sister was talking about the big holes.
It used to be there, that's not there anymore. Yeah, that's fine.
I like those floor to ceiling windows. I hear her skating.
And a lot of people have been busy. Been using them a lot. See them out there almost every day, every night, certainly on the weekend, it's full. Funny how just put the perimeter up, makes them feel like they can.
I can actually see.
Oh, there we go.
Easy mark. I say that because I know it.
I think we're all not.
Must be.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. For you? Get started.
Okay.
Let's start. They can catch up.
Thank you.
It's shared, a sheet and a music house is so it's a sad. Welcome back.
You gotta have a
All right, let's get started. Airport, the Blue Committee's airport committee met on February 7th. The minutes are attached, so I won't bother going through those, but for the airport, and just so you know, this year, we have a new chair for the airport committee, that's Tom Thatcher, be the vice chair. We have a number of resolutions here that Tom, you can read through. I can add some additional information. Before we get into those, the first one is just going to be to appoint committee members. All the other resolutions that follow in the airport are all for getting approval to sign financial agreements with the state of New York, with the FAA, for the upcoming projects that we have there, the taxiway, apron rehabilitation, the runway rehabilitation. So these are all documents that we need to sign to get that process rolling. So for that, you got it done.
Okay, first resolution is to appoint the following airport committee members. Myself as chair, Mark as co-chair, John Hanna, Brian Duras, Ash Alexander, Chris Keppers, Dave Woods, and Alan Denville. I need a motion for that.
So moved.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That is carried.
Second resolution to advise the runway 20-20, or 2-20 pavement rehabilitation construction project for Ticonderoga Municipal Airport.
I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next resolution to authorize the supervisor to execute the, for the year 2023 application for federal assistance FAA form SF424 for apron expansion phase 1 design.
I'll move it.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Opposed?
Next resolution is authorizing the supervisor to execute the combined sponsor certificate for 4B6 apron expansion phase 1 design and certifies to the FAA that the sponsor will comply with the statutory and administrative requirements in carrying out a project under the Airport Improvement Program. AIP.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next resolution authorizes the supervisor to execute the fee negotiation letter with Passero Associates to submit to the FAA for Ticonderoga Municipal Airport 4B6 apron expansion phase 1 design FAA project number 3-36-0196-XX-23 airport engineering design services consultant agreement.
Breathe, Tom.
This is required to obtain FAA approval for the Passero consultant agreement.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion on that? I will say that for this particular one, whenever there's a certain expected amount for construction, the FAA requires this independent fee estimate. We've done this several times before. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
A resolution authorizing the town of Ticonderoga to enter into an agreement with the state of New York for financial assistance for the airport apron reconstruction and taxiway rehabilitation construction project, which is FAA AIP project number 3-36-0196-031-2022, New York State Spin 1907.35. This project constructs 8,950 square yards of the existing main apron pavement and the rehabilitation of 820 feet of the existing access taxiway pavement.
I'll first that.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Carried. Yep.
Resolution authorizing the town of Ticonderoga to enter into agreement with the state of New York for financial assistance for runway 2-20 pavement rehabilitation design project, FAA AIP project number 3-36-0196-030-2022, New York State Spin 1907.34. This project will rehabilitate the existing runway 2-20 pavement.
I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Carried.
Last resolution authorizing supervisor to execute an aviation capital project agreement between the town of Ticonderoga and the state of New York for Ticonderoga Municipal Airport Project, numbers 1907.34, to rehabilitate the existing runway 2-20 pavement, design phase 1, 2, and 1907.35, reconstruction of 8,950 square yards of the existing main apron pavement construction, phase 2, contract number K007519. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Carried. All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I wrote as many words as I could possibly think
Could you put in any more numbers?
of. Nope, that was all I had.
To the FAA.
Yeah. Building grounds, Parks Rec.
Okay, I'm just making the resolution, correct? Okay.
Yes?
Resolution to appoint the following Buildings, Grounds, Park, Recreation Committee members. Joyce Cooper, co-chair, Dave Woods, co-chair, Nicole Justice Green, Bill Dahlbeck, Sean Ross, Jerry Cooper, Nancy Kelly, Grant Spalding, and Tanya Thompson.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Economic Development, we met on January 18th. Minutes are attached, and we'll go into a lot of detail. Right now, the Economic Economic Development Committee is looking into the start of a comprehensive plan update. We'll probably use these committee members as the group that will look into that as a task. I already reached out to some other towns in the county about what they've done in the past. They've also reached out to Essex County Community Resources to get some of their help and hopefully maybe win a grant to help fund some of this. Next meeting is February 15th, and that's all I have. The one resolution that I have is for the committee. Members, resolution to appoint the following Economic Development Committee members: Mark Wright, Chair; Tom Cunningham, Co-Chair; Connor Watton, Matt Courtwright, Nicole Justice Green, John Bartlett, Keith Town, and Beth Hill. I need a motion.
So moved.
I don't know who you heard first.
I got him.
Okay. Second, do I have a second?
I did.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Tom
None opposed, carried.
I guess I should have given my report before, shouldn't I?
That would have been good. Would you like to do it now?
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Oh, I thought it was too late.
It was too what?
Too late.
Oh, wait a minute.
What she's saying is be brief and concise.
Well, I never brief, you know that. First of all, at the meeting, the group was informed of the recent death of Ed Gosberg, and I want to tell you something about Ed. He was a longtime member of the Parks and Recreation Committee. He played an important role in the developments of Fields 2 and 3. And he was asked by when I was first on the committee to serve as a volunteer recreational facilities advisor. He oversaw the maintenance of these two fields and it even provided a portable restroom there for several years. He also worked on the development of a fourth field behind Field 2 and was a strong advocate and coach for girls softball. Ed also assisted Linda Mackey in the location and construction of the town's dog park on Lord Howe Street. The committee is most appreciative of his support of town facilities and recreation. Skating rink, woo, it is a buzz with skaters. I drove by there the other day at 3 o'clock and there were over 10 people on the ice. Yay. The warming hut at the skating rink was discussed at the meeting, and Nicole Green, who's still sitting there, is investigating inexpensive ways to heat the building. And I know she's contacted Champlain Valley Plumbing to give them some advice and possibly a quote to heat it. An ice cleaner has been ordered, and the walls for the rink are not only going up, they're already there. And the rink also has a new liner which is in place. And I'm very happy. I saw Ash recently, and he told me over the weekend there were 100 people there on Saturday. And everybody seems to be going very well, that the hockey players are not running over the recreational skaters, so that's all that goes. And I need to do something about the handicapped access to some of our, and the committee does too also. We don't have a handicap ramp at the new playground. I know the ramp, the board is broken, but that's not an adequate access, so that needs to be taken care of. And also our beach, our building is really not handicapped accessible, nor is the pavilion that's there, so we need to, and I think Dave, you were going to talk to Dave Ross about that, and give us a quote so we can look at that.
I did.
Okay, good, we'll talk about that at the next meeting then. And we also talked about the beach playground. We have a nice playground down here, but if you look at the beach, you're going to see it's old equipment. Several years ago, we had Mariah Shock up there, and I asked them to paint the equipment and the swings, and the kids were so excited when they came in because with the coat of paint, they almost look brand new. But they don't anymore, so we'll need to think about what we're going to do. And we're still talking about the town Christmas tree. And what it comes to is would be very difficult to put a new tree in the park with the restrictions of digging and the open space that we're trying to maintain and everything. And possibly the best location is still here on the community building grounds. I think what I need to do, and I'll talk with Tanya about and finance about how to do it, is we need to have an arborist and give us some advice. I hate to invest in a tree and then find out we make a big mistake. So that's where we are with that. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 21st, which incidentally is my birthday, but I can't make the meeting because my husband has a doctor's appointment. So I'm going to need to reschedule that one. I'm done.
All right, thanks. To reschedule, I'll put it on our page, and that's September. Highway transfer station?
Okay, I need to make a resolution to appoint the following highway transfer station committee members: myself, Chair, Mark Wright, co-chair, Sal Bernal, Mitch Cole, Heath Town, and John Deming. We met on 30.
Let's finish the resolution.
Oh, okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried.
Okay, we met.
You don't have to read it all.
Huh?
You don't
No,
have
I'm
to.
not.
Go out there.
You're really not ready.
I'm short and sweet.
All right, go ahead. I've already delayed you long enough.
All right, we met on the 31st. There was no public discussion. We had a discussion on Grove Street, St. Clair, the flooding in the corner there and everything, but that's in progress now. Mark asked what the progress needed to move forward to put stop signs at McCormick and Champlain Avenue to help the farmers market. Matt was there and he said it needs to be added to the ordinance law, and he's going to work on that. There was no resolutions and no outstanding items discussed, and we adjourned at 9:55. How did that? Quick enough?
That's pretty good, man. Good party, Dave. Municipal facility, huh?
Yeah, first resolution is to appoint the committee members. Myself, Tom Cunningham as chair, Tom Thatcher as co-chair, Mike Mosier, Chris Dostey, and Jeff Cook.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried.
So we met on January 24th, a few days ago. The minutes are attached and online, so I won't go over them in detail. A couple of items of note. One, the Alfonder report, which we've been working on, is near completion. In fact, it may be completed now, and we'll have it for review at the next committee meeting, at which time we will then turn it over to Buildings and Grounds for their, to move it forward, so you'll know what is needed on the buildings as far as maintenance and repair, at least as regard as that report is concerned. Mike Mosier is looking to set up a meeting with a contractor to give the committee a brief presentation on what they can offer regarding design, build, and cost for the new police station. So we're looking at that so that we can accurately define what the potential cost would be for that building. In regards to the police station, AES has completed the site plan for the police station to put it on the highway grounds, and their next step is to move forward with a schematic for the police station so we can start drafting that up so we know what needs to be required in there. There was a resolution passed at the Finance Committee meeting to help with that issue, so we should be getting some schematics in here for that and the layouts. So there were some discussions about the site plan police station, but that's moving forward. We did have a discussion on the highway department. AES is going to move forward with an evaluation, which they've hired a third-party person to do an evaluation based on their construction evaluation to determine the condition of that highway department garage, and they will come up with a cost estimate to renovate that building and bring it up to modern standards, and they will compare that to the cost of building a new building, so we'll have a comparison. Just as a note, they did estimate that a rule of thumb for new versus renovation is that renovations are usually about $100 a square foot less than the cost of a new build. Of course, you don't have a full building, but in this case, because the structure of the building, if it's renovated, is basically renovating the entire building. The only thing that would really be left to start would be the slab and the steel girders, and everything else would be done around it. So you would basically be getting a new building except for the steel girders. So, but that's being looked at. There was some discussion. There have been some comments, which I think there's some folks here about the Hudson Headwaters building. that's potentially being purchased by some outside investors, and they have approached the town since our meeting. We've received a small packet of their proposal for the town to lease that building. At the time of the meeting, we did not have that proposal in hand, so we other than some brief discussions about it, we didn't take it up. We'll have to take it up at the next meeting. And our next meeting is scheduled for February 27th at 18:30, and our meeting was adjourned at 19:30.
Thanks, Tom. Public safety is next.
Okay, we need a resolution to appoint the following public safety committee members. Myself as chair, Joyce Cooper as co-chair, Chief Holder, Ross Kelly, Dave Burrows, Deanna Peters, and Jen Gander. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried.
Okay, I have another resolution to accept with regret the resignation of Jim Banish, effective January 24th, 2023.
I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried.
Okay, there's going to be a discussion about the American Legion Alley and speed signs on Eagle Lake.
Let me just mention the
Okay.
American Legion thing. We were approached by a member of the American Legion with concern about some of the tenant parking in the alley there between the American Legion and the old Pike Sentinel building, in regards to being able to get a fire apparatus in there in the event of a fire at the Legion. From what we could determine from some of the property codes and the property maps and codes, it looks like that alleyway is half owned by the American Legion property and half owned by the other side of the building. So it's not town property. So we can't just put up a no parking sign there. Rhiannon was going to reach out to the property owner and let them know about the situation and see if they would voluntarily put like a no parking sign there so the cars would be backed up a little bit further towards Algonquin Street to park. That's where we are right now. So there's no decision here, it's just waiting to hear back if the property owner would be willing to do that. There was a discussion that the apparatus could probably come in from either Dudley or Algonquin Street to access the building. Either way, they said they would get there, so. That's all I have on that.
Do you want to do the Eagle Lake too?
You want me to do the Eagle Lake too?
Yeah.
I know you would like. So we've also been approached by some residents in Eagle Lake about installing speed signs in the area near the causeway. There's been a discussion at the meeting about whether those would be, how those would be powered, how would they be paid for. And I think the Eagle Lake Property Group is considering either fully funding or partially funding those signs that they think, if they're hardwired, I think they go for like $4,000 or less. I think that was it. Yeah, but they can't talk now. So the thing is, though, that's a state road. I don't know. There's probably be a process the town would have to initiate to request something like that. And I don't know what the financial flow would be for something like that, or what the initial step would be for the town to contact DOT in regards to that request. Is there a process?
I would just think normal time of year, it's not our
Yeah, no.
state highway that.
We can't go out there and erect anything regardless of the base.
Right. I would contact the local DOT office.
I have a DOT to contact that I can mention that this is a request.
Might be a stronger request if it came from the residents,
Yeah.
straight to New York State DOT, if it was something that they wanted to do. I mean, that's who they really should be contacting, is New York State about it.
I have contact information, I can get that. The parties that are involved. I mean, we could certainly endorse something like that, but that's about the only power that we have.
Weren't they asking for two signs, not one though?
Yeah, there's
one by Moran's and then
Yes,
one by the
one by the
Causeway.
antique and one by the causeway.
Can I offer anything at this
Not
time
yet.
or no? Not yet, okay, I'll wait.
So that was that Eagle Lake sign. And then, we have a discussion on officer hiring.
Okay, I need to make a motion on advertise for a part-time police officer.
But we're gonna advertise on it in a different paper. We're gonna include
that, but we don't want to just do times a tie.
No.
So we have to specifically say that we're gonna advertise them wherever else we want to advertise.
You mean you want me to state that, or can you do
Yeah,
that?
well, you're passing a resolution to
Yeah.
advertise for part-time
For
police
part-time,
officers in the
right.
Press Republican and
Right.
the Times.
Yeah. Okay, I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
And I need another motion to advertise for an anticipated full-time officer. Same papers.
So the story there is, the police department is looking at promoting a current officer to sergeant. They also would want to fill the position that would be vacant. The position is not vacant yet, so we cannot, we can advertise for an anticipated position, we cannot hire or offer a position until that officer position is vacant. What we can do is advertise for an anticipated position. That is your request.
I moved it. Pretty good.
I'll second.
All right, discussion on that. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried.
Can I get who seconded the first one I was talking to while somebody seconded?
Tom
The
did.
the first one?
Both
The
of
part-time?
them.
Okay.
He did both of them.
Sorry, thank
No,
you.
it's okay.
Okay, and the monthly report from Chief Hulbert is they had approximate calls to service 358, incident reports 37, arrests 30, uniform traffic tickets 46, DWIs 1, and accident investigated 7. Codes had, they issued 10 permits. They had 4 ordered to remedy, and they had garbage and rubbish on Water Street, that was remedied. And our next meeting is February 28th at 8 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you. Public Works. Minutes from the January 31 meeting were attached. We answered a lot of questions on the regarding the recent water letters that the town issued to residents up there. This is for the next well project, or the well project, that we are proposing, if we can, if everything falls into place. There was a request for a special hearing on this to allow other residents the opportunity to ask their questions. So I kind of floated a date out there, I don't know if you all saw that, March 7th at 6 o'clock. I don't know if Matt, if you're available. You can all check your calendars for March 7th. Okay. I don't know, Tom, if you're going to be gallivanting in Florida.
I won't be here.
Okay, that's okay, we'll have still have a forum. But then
I can be on,
you miss all the fun that day.
it's okay. I'll survive.
What is that for?
That'll be a public hearing just so that the other residents can come in and ask their questions about the letters.
Yeah, time, date,
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
On
So it is
March-
gonna be a public hearing,
March
not
7th.
an information.
Public hearing.
What was the date on that?
Still March 7th.
March 7th. Okay, because I wrote it down wrong. I wrote it down wrong day, that's why I asked.
Okay. Just pulling you.
Yeah, sure. It's
Just me and me. All right, so if that is the case, everyone can support that. Tom, are you okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'll offer a resolution to set a public hearing for March 7th, 2023 at 6 p.m. to allow comment and questions regarding the recent well program.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, carried. I have a resolution here to appoint the following Public Works Committee members: Mark Wright, Chair; Tom Cunningham, Co-Chair; Derek Fleury, Eric Blanchard, and Sherry Benito.
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. I have a resolution to increase the account for 1489 New York State Route 9N, Anthony and Heather Wolf, to 2 EDU water and 2 O&M water, as the property now has an apartment in the home for the assessor's live file.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, carried. A resolution to deactivate the account for 35 Portage, as it has been combined with 32 Water Street, Assembly of God Church, per the assessor's live file. Need a motion?
I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried. Resolution to increase the account for 208 Black Point Road, Danny McQuay, 1 EDU sewer and 1 O&M sewer charge, as the lot now has a single-family dwelling on it, per the assessor's live file.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried. Resolution to increase the account for 82 Outlet Drive on O'Neill to 1 EDU water, 1 EDU sewer, as listed as a single-family dwelling on the tax roll.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, carried. Resolution to increase account for 63 Montcalm Street, Corey Trudeau, 5 EDU water and 5 EDU sewer, as the assessor has changed the property listing to 5 dwellings, rental properties on the live file.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution authorizing the creation of a purchase order in the amount of $13,204.20 to Slywork Equipment for the purchase of 4 E1 replacement pumps for SS09 Black Point Sewer.
I'll move that.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, none opposed, carried. Okay, let me make sure I got everything here. Move on. Okay, while we're here, Tom, do you want to discuss the task force results?
Yeah, I did last time, but basically the task force was there to review whether or not not vacant properties, but properties that were under construction should receive a reduction in their EDU billings. And after review, we have decided that it's not in the best interest to move forward for that. Certainly for a couple of reasons. One is, of course, in a couple of years, we're going to have water meters in, which will eliminate the need for this reduction in EDUs, as just water's not being used, they won't get billed for it. And so our recommendation to the board is that we not move forward with trying to form change the existing ordinance or law to reflect a reduction in EDUs while buildings under construction.
Okay. I appreciate your time and the time of the task force to look into that, and so you had to dive into some deep history there.
Yeah, a little history, and one good thing that did come out of it was we do believe that there needs to be some additional review on the vacant lot billings, as we think that they're underbilled at this point and aren't recovering the proper debt fee, which they need to recover the debt as a minimum, and probably some small percentage of the O&M cost in that particular district, so it needs to be reviewed. It certainly has to be done before we get meters installed.
Right, exactly. Just to close this out, I'm going to put a resolution on the floor, a resolution to maintain the current process regarding reduced water sewer rates for properties that are being renovated and or unoccupied.
Dave moved it, I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried. And I think with that, I'm done with Public Works. Human Services, Youth?
Oh,
Yeah, you're up.
I would like to make the resolution to appoint the following members of the Youth Commission. Joyce Cooper, Chair, Tom Thatcher, Co-Chair, Ken Moser, Tanya Thompson, Richard Rosler, Jenny Itorino, and Katie Anderson.
I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried.
I just wanted to say that at our last meeting, our after-school program is really being well attended. That
Good.
particular day that we met, he had 50 kids there, which is maybe capacity, I don't know, sometime we maybe want to think about that. I also have to just say our rec director is doing a good job. I attended the girls' varsity basketball game last night, and our halftime entertainment, I don't want to say entertainment, but our feature was the kids for the big basketball game playing basketball, and the crowd was so excited. I think it's a very good program. It's a very enthusiastic attendees. One thing I think the committee is going to have to deal with is the fact that some parents are not picking up their children in a timely manner. And I think maybe a letter needs to go home and tell them that they have to be picked up by a certain time. And there has been some issues with discipline, not discipline, but behavior, and I'm hoping that that has been resolved.
Has Sean talked to the parents when they come to pick them up?
Yes, yes. And there has been, one child was suspended for 2 weeks, so he is following through on this. But the parents coming late, we were there for a meeting, and one parent didn't come until 20 after 6 to pick up their children.
All right, thanks.
Some other resolutions on that?
Yeah, some other.
Oh, my goodness.
Don't you pack them before?
Oh, my gosh, okay, I digressed, didn't I? Okay, we need to advertise, I make a motion that we advertise for lifeguard and head lifeguard positions for the 2023 beach season. The quicker we act, the easier it is to have everything in place when the season starts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried. Let me just make a comment here. If you know anybody that wants to be a lifeguard, the town is paying for the certification. So that's a cost that they don't have to worry about. Incentive to become a lifeguard here. You don't need to go to Hague, you don't need to go anywhere
No,
else.
that's right. We have the nicest beach in the area.
Great, continue.
Actually, I think the training is in March, and my understanding, Tommy, is it correct that both those sessions are already full?
Okay.
Silver Bay does offer training in June, but that's a little late, but that's another possibility. A resolution to authorize the expenditure of monies for the 2023 Ticonderoga Youth Program in the amount of $122,961.
I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried.
Resolution to advertise for an assistant day camp director and camp counselors. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, it's our summer youth program for the 2023 summer camp.
I'll move it. I'll move it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried.
And resolution to advertise for activity attendance for the Ticonderoga youth program.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried. Very good. Anything else from youth?
Nope.
Okay. Human Services Seniors?
Nothing to report. They didn't have a meeting. Their next meeting won't be until April.
Is there anyone over there right now during the day?
Yeah.
People that come in, they play pickleball,
Yeah, I
anything.
need to
but-
bring the agreement over for that.
The attendant, Marlene, Chuck
Yeah,
was
it's
there.
never an answer to the email. So.
I think she only is there till noon time, but there's always seems to be somebody there. Of course, there's always people playing
All right,
pickleball.
Most of the committee members are out for the
Yeah.
winter, and so they're not meeting, but there are people at the facility, so.
All right, thank you.
Can I add, please, and I sent this to you, but maybe you didn't see it, that we also need to advertise for our cook and our head cook.
Do I not have it later on?
Oh, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Wouldn't it be
Let
under-
me look before we. I got food service helpers and cook for summer meal service.
Oh, I guess I didn't know why you had it.
Well, yeah, why did I put it?
Okay.
I don't know, I just did.
Okay,
We'll get.
I didn't want to miss it.
No. Health insurance, contract negotiations, got nothing to report. Cable, one thrilling announcement here. This letter will serve as notice that on or around March 1st, 2023, Spectrum Northeast LLC will launch Stellar TV, high definition on SVP channel 178 or channel 201 on the channel line. All right, resolutions. Here we go. A resolution to submit mini bid for the water wastewater department for a new 2023 F-250 truck.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution authorizing the purchase of and creation of a purchase order in the amount of $55,022.44 for a skid steer through Sourcewell bidding for water wastewater department.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Was this in the budget? Or was this
They're paying it out of their fund balance.
out of their fund balance? Okay.
Yeah.
What is it?
What?
What is a skid skid steer.
Skid steer, it's like a
It's a tractor.
small bobcat tractor kind of thing.
Material.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, carried. Let's see, resolution authorizing the creation of a purchase order in the amount of $550 to Biometrics for All for the configuration and installation of a new fingerprint machine at the police station.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, carried. A little housekeeping here, a resolution to amend resolution 15-2023 to correct an error stating that the sewer account fund balances will be covering increased costs for water accounts. It should state water fund balance will cover increased costs for water accounts.
Move that.
Anyone jump in?
Second.
I heard Joyce whisper.
All right,
You did.
all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, carried. Resolution authorizing the following budget transfers. Get ready, here we go. All right, to fund under budgeted general accounts for contingency, the balance after that transfer is $74,781.30, and we're moving $123.70. I need a motion on that one.
Motion, I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, carried. A resolution authorizing the following budget adjustments. First, the fund account by general fund balance for the budget correction, in the amount of $22,494.12 from youth programs, general employee benefits. Next is water admin, DOJ compliance advertising, funding an under budgeted account by water fund balance, in the amount of $56.52. And the last one in this is water administration contractual, in the amount of $1,445.13, funding the accounts by water fund balance to cover increased costs. Any motion, please?
I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, carried. Resolution authorizing the following interfund transfer to transfer funds from general to the Eagle Lake Water Project in the amount of $972.95. Motion, please.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, carried. A resolution authorizing the following interfund loans. This is to transfer funds from Highway to Veterans Road Culvert Bridge Project until funding is received in the amount of $4,801.06. Next is transferring funds from general to the Airport Apron Project until funding is received in the amount of $1,500. To transfer funds from general to Airport Pavement Project until funding is received in the amount of $17,051.67. Transfer funds from general to Airport Apron Project until funding is received in the amount of $17,612.87. And I need a motion on that.
I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Carried. A resolution to accept the satisfactory findings of the 2022 municipal court audit.
So moved.
Second.
Can you second even though he was doing the audit? All right.
That's how we were just looking at each other.
Was it fun?
I was just waiting for him to go.
We got through it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Carried. A resolution authorizing to advertise for the anticipated sole assessor position.
I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Let me just say one thing. I want to correct a statement I made earlier. That position did not get an increase. All the elected positions and appointed positions were frozen salaries this year. I'd also like to make a note, since I'm talking about that some of the department heads voluntarily and the town clerk voluntarily froze their salaries this year. So just want to make that correction, because I was incorrect earlier. The motion?
You
Oh,
did,
that one?
you did. You need to do an all.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. A resolution authorizing the renewal of the town's pollution liability coverage with an annual premium price quote of $4,338.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, carried. Resolution authorizing the decision by the Adirondack Park Agency and Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, regarding trailer boats at the Eagle Lake Boat Launch Site. I'd like to read the full.
I think it was opposing, not authorizing.
Yes.
Opposing.
Should be opposing.
Opposing, right.
Yeah, we don't want to authorize that. I couldn't authorize that if I wanted to. So the resolution reads as follows. Resolution opposing the decision by the Adirondack Park Agency, APA, Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, regarding trailer boats at the Eagle Boat Launch site. Whereas the Adirondack Park Agency State Land Master Plan states launching sites for trailer boats will only be provided by the state on Adirondack lakes in conformity with specific management guidelines. And whereas one of those management guidelines states boat launching sites will only be provided on large lakes regularly used by motorboats, and a large lake is defined as a lake approximately 1,000 acres or more in area. And whereas Eagle Lake Boat Launch Site, located in the town of Ticonderoga, County of Essex, is identified as non-conforming with a master plan for trailer boat access, with Eagle Lake being smaller than 1,000 acres at 400 acres. And whereas the three alternatives identified to county and town officials included do nothing, convert the waterway access site, or perform an assessment and reclassify. And whereas the Adirondack Park Agency decision without town or county input and discussion was to convert the waterway access site, resulting in an implementation process to begin after 2 seasons, which will consist of prohibiting the access for trailer boats. And whereas the decision by the Adirondack Park Agency to prohibit trailer boat access at the Eagle Lake Boat Launch site will negatively impact local residents and visitors to this site. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ticonderoga Town Board is hereby in opposition to this action, and I will move this.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried.
Can I get that?
Yes. Okay. Resolution authorizing the supervisor to execute the agreement for maintenance of county roads between the town of Ticonderoga and Essex County for 2023.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried. A resolution authorizing the approval of an agreement between the town of Ticonderoga and Essex County for the annual lease of DMV office space at 132 Montcalm Street in the amount of $2,200 for the term of the 2023 lease.
I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. A resolution to approve the town clerk posting notification of the completed AUD for 2021 and the legals of the Sun Community News.
I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, carried. A resolution to advertise for food service helpers and a cook for the 2023 summer meal service program.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, carried. Resolution of approving the annual subscription renewal of MVWare vSphere Cloud Computing Virtualization Platform through StoreTech in an amount not to exceed $175.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried. A resolution opposing the application of Procella COR in Lake George until such time the necessary scientific evidence can be gathered on the potential adverse effects to Lake George water quality, human health, and aquatic plant and animal life. Just let me say one thing here. We did a similar resolution last year. The APA is moving ahead with the application of this chemical in the lake. We do use some of our Lake George as drinking water source. I think this has gone to litigation. There's a court hearing on the 17th of this month, I believe, where the court's going to hear their case. It was prior implementation of that was had an injunction of some sort that stopped them, but we did oppose this last year until there was more information as to what this chemical is, what the effects are on human and animal plant life. So I will move this resolution.
A second.
All right.
Somebody.
Second choice.
Already had Dave.
Discussion on this at all?
I just want to say that I am on a committee for the Lake George Park Commission, though it's not a committee that's associated with this, but I do think for the sake of good order that I'll abstain from.
Yeah, I did. Thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried, one abstain. Okay. A resolution to set a public hearing for March 9, 2023 at 6 p.m. This is during our next board meeting. To discuss a proposed ordinance prohibiting parking on the west side of Champlain Avenue between Algonquin Street and Father Jogues Place in the town of Ticonderoga.
I move that one.
I knew you would.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Carried. A resolution to accept the minutes of the January 12, 2023 regular town board meeting, the January 26, 2023 finance meeting, and the February 2nd, 2023 EMS workshop.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution to pay the abstract.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. A resolution to accept the supervisor's report as submitted.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. One discussion, we're not done yet. One discussion, it should be in your packet, we received a letter from the Chilson Volunteer Fire Department. They submitted a letter to the town on February 1st, 2023 regarding water termination and requesting documentation from the state of New York that the town of Ticonderoga has authority to shut down the water supply to the Chilson Fire Protection District. I can reply to this if the board so chooses. Let me just say that the Chilson Volunteer Fire Department provides fire protection contract with the town board on behalf of the Fire Protection District. The Chilson Volunteer Fire Department does not possess oversight or authority over the Protection District. The town board possesses that sole authority. So the town cannot speak for New York State regarding a request for documentation. As I said, the town is under a consent agreement with the Department of Justice, which disconnects drinking water only. I can't address what's going to happen in the future. Disconnect, as we understand it, which is basically no understanding because it hasn't been explained to us yet. I assume that means that at least disconnect means disconnecting each home from the main water line. We've got no other guidance on what disconnect means. So as far as I know,
that's all that's required.
as far as I know, water will continue flowing down that line until
It doesn't.
yeah. If the board wants me to respond to this letter, I can respond, but I'll basically be saying what I just said right now. I don't know what the fire chief is going to do after this point. You want me to send him a letter?
He needs a response. He needs a response.
I can respond verbally, I can send a letter. The letter puts it in paper for all eternity, so I'll do that. Well, basically, as I said, be saying what I just said. And we have.
There's that once it's all down. If that water's still flowing through there, if they have a break, are you responsible?
That's a good question. He needs to go to the state with it.
We can have the discussion. We did discuss 130 the portage. Did we ever advertise for, no, we did not put anything in the paper. Okay. We've already agreed through resolution to advertise the sale of that property, but we were going to put some specific development language in there of what we were looking for. The,
No, not yet.
It's zoned, we should want to.
no, but we were thinking if we're going to sell it, we want it to be, to help alleviate the housing problem by allowing whoever buys it, uses it for some specific use for along that line, yeah.
Some multifamily dwelling as opposed to.
Yeah. So what do we need? Do we need specific language?
What are you looking for? You want to put out like a request for proposal
Yes.
for the use of the property? I can work it down, put together an RFP.
All right, let's do that.
Oh, I won't be able to do it for next week, Friday.
That's okay, we understand your vacation priorities. It's not a high priority, we just want to eventually get it off the table, yeah, that's all. All right, so, good, thanks.
We'll have the circles.
Yeah, we'll do both, yeah.
Yeah. I hate to bring your nerves, but I don't have anything other than my list here. Tanya, do you have anything?
So earlier you held a public hearing on the local law repeal for local law
Oh.
2007.
Did I not do that?
No, we need to resolve to repeal that. Local law repealing
All
local law.
right, yeah, I need to have a resolution to repeal local law 3 of 2007.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Thank you. Everyone do that again next month.
No, I don't want to do that again. And I see that we're only advertising for assistant day camp director, but we should advertise for day camp director.
Can I modify that resolution?
Well, we can just do another one right now.
So we only did assistant, you said?
You did assistant and counselors.
Okay, well, let's have a resolution for a, what do we call it?
It's the director.
The director?
Yeah, day camp director.
All right, let's have a resolution to advertise for a day camp director for the 2023 season.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Okay, I think that's it.
So, Matt, do you have anything?
Yeah, I am poised to respond to the Department of Justice and the EPA tomorrow on the potential modification of the consent decree. I can give you the details here in public. If you have questions, we can have an executive session discuss it. But the short of it is to amend the interim timeframes. The June of 2025 timeframe cannot be amended. There's been no appetite to do that.
We didn't expect that.
We didn't expect it. We pushed for it, but that wasn't going to happen. The interim amendments are to really kind of provide updates. And the substantive requirement is by August of this year, we're going to update the EPA, Department of Justice, Department of Health as to our status with all the users that have decided they're going to go offline, construct a well or a connection with another water source. And for those users, there's a pocket or so of users that may need assistance with a small municipal system, like Lake Well, to provide the map plan report for that. So that is, by August of this year, we're gonna have to have that prepared and, not adopted and done, but prepared for them. So that's really the big change. It removes the other interim dates that we had for a full map plan report for the entire district to move forward with the contracting and the bidding of that project. Those dates are proposed to be removed. So again, if the board has questions, we can go into executive discussion, discuss them. Otherwise, I'll be poised to move that forward tomorrow. And I do have a call with them tomorrow to discuss financing. So, EPA continues to help us out here to try to explore financing avenues, potentially for private, as we discussed in some of our meetings. There's no traditional hard funding mechanisms for the scope of private wells that we need, second homes and things like that. But again, we're in pursuit of the town board's directive. We're still chasing down those leads to see what we can do. So I'll have that call with them tomorrow, and I'll report back probably at the middle of the works.
That sounds good. I'm good with that.
Yep.
Congratulations to all of you who stuck around. You get a gold star. Public comment? Anyone who has a comment or like to say? Now you're Katrina.
Yes, did you want to go first? You ready? Okay. I sent you an email, Mark, I don't know if I attached it, directed to you and to the town board members about the bridge project. Did you receive that?
I got an email. When did you send it? I got an email from Rolf. Was that the same email?
Nope, shouldn't be. This is a copy of it, and now that we have driven through the bridge area, the causeway,
Yes.
I can
just
actually
notice
amend
let me
some
just
of this.
interrupt. I got this through Rolf. I did not get this from you. Can you explain why? I asked him.
I sent it to you, I sent it to Rolf, so maybe he also sent it to you.
Okay.
I don't know, but I would just like to amend that, when we drove up here today and drove through there, both lanes are once again open and
Okay.
the colors are gone, but it is still very, very dark, and that is such a bad curve, and that rock ledge that's right there, I really wish that National Grid would put that other second set of lights back on the pole. They took down the 2 poles. I'm talking about the Causeway, the bridge project. They took down the 2 poles, put 2 new poles in, only put street lights on 1 pole. So it's very, very dark, and when they had shut the lanes down, one each, it's narrow on that bridge to begin with. And then because they had the traffic light there to stop traffic, and the way that if you were driving west, towards Scroon, the way that the traffic had to stop on the other side, the lights were directly in your eyes as you're driving towards that way. And when we came through last week, it was blinding, and of course you're pitch black and on that curve, and you're trying to navigate through, and the reflection from the orange cones, I was like, oh, this is scary through there. And you've got logging trucks and whatever. But if there's any way that you could, they're probably done right now, maybe until April or weather changes, but if there's any leverage that you have to get National Grid to put the street lights back up on that second pole so it's not so dark. I'd hate to see another tractor trailer go over in the lake.
Was there a contract on that? Was there any stipulations in there that they would put back what they took down?
We thought there were, but that light has been down for...
Since they changed, one of the things that they found out is those poles are so old, I understand that they believe the town owns those street lights. Trying to go back in history and figure out who owns all this stuff. But it ended up being the town, and why National Grid has not put that other one up is beyond any of us.
Is the town paying the electrical bill for
Those are
2
not-
street lights?
They are not being paid by the town. I do not pay the town lights. I pay the bill, and I see all of our accounts.
We don't pay those.
We have no
energy
lights.
for those, and we certainly don't own the pole.
Right, there are some poles that we own in Thai, but
Sure.
I've never seen them on our bill.
But there'd be should have been some specs in there when they bid that, whether what they would take down and put back up.
Yeah, well, they put one, which, I'm glad that there's one, and I think we're being very patient, I'm very glad for the work that they're doing there.
It's a state project, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a state-funded project, so
Yes.
they're doing it themselves or hired a contractor to do it.
Do they hire real?
Real is what, right? Real construction is doing it, yes.
They got the bid.
So it's an independent contractor.
I've seen a lot of emails between Real and DOT and National Grid, and Real and National Grid.
So I don't know who's responsible for, it would be National Grid, I would think,
I would think so.
responsible for putting the light back on, because they're the only ones that can touch the poles, I don't think the
Has
DOT.
anybody approached Real?
So, has Rolf?
Yes,
I think Rolf
they're
has.
informed of it.
And Keith
I
Parks, who
don't,
was our Attaboy
it
president.
sounds like everybody's pointing to somebody else. And the bottom line is National Grid, it's their pole, they're the only ones that can put it up, they took it down. What the holdup is, our president has written letters and talked to them, and I got copies of the emails. They're very nice, and said, well, maybe we'll get to it. I don't.
In the meantime, especially with bad weather and,
I would think once you put them on notice, if something happened, and
Well, that's why we asked if there's anything
No,
the
I mean,
town
I think
can
they
do,
would be aware of
the
that.
town's
I mean,
paying, and everybody's aware of it, but
Well, I think this will probably be similar to the radar signs. They're not our poles, we're not paying for the energy, it's on a state road. We could, about the only thing we could do is, I don't know if we can even do that. We could, support your efforts to saying that we're in favor of this, but it may be an issue where the residents.
We may very well be paying for the lights on those poles. I'm just saying that they're not owned by the town.
Okay.
We have so many poles, and I do have a listing of them, but they're not the town's poles.
right, I don't believe the town owns the poles,
Right.
but
We don't own
I was
any.
under the impression the town was paying for the electricity.
The
So
town pays
yeah,
for all the
we'll
street
check it.
electricity.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and then on the radar side, so if you have any leverage to, something we'd appreciate it.
We have no authority.
No,
All-
okay.
All we could do is say, we endorse this action or something like that.
Okay, well,
I'm
we
not sure what the right
appreciate
words
that.
would be, but.
Right. Regarding the radar speed signs, I was talking to Ralph last night, or we were, and, I mean, if the town can get permits from DOT to let us put the signs up, and possibly, we're thinking about 2, but maybe it'd be better to have 4. One right by, well, like the westbound side by Forest Lyle, he's right by the bridge area. Because what happens a lot of times is, they'll see it at one end, they'll see it at the other, and then speed up in between. You know, or even, there's been some racing of cars side by side, right? You know, like, well, in front of our place by 74, and they just kind of like, there's a little stretch of straight road, and it's gun-ho. And you're right about the cost, it's about $3,500 to $4,000 if they're brand new. The used costs, maybe are about half of that.
Yeah, you told me it's some eBay used, yeah.
Right, we done some eBay searching. And Silvamo, or Vanil, I guess.
You were right, Silvano.
Silvamo, okay, I didn't say that correctly. They will help us in their donation. So that's a good thing.
I don't know what the town can do to request to get a permit to put a sign on the state road. I don't know how it works.
Not a speed sign. I mean, you might get kind
The permitting, the permits
All
from
gotta come
DOT
from
to
DOT.
allow us to put them up.
Well, no, DOT will have to put them up.
Right,
DOT
right.
won't let them.
No, I know,
Just
but
need,
permits from DOT. Can the town get those permits?
I don't know, I'd have to ask the question from DOT if that would work or if that would even work.
Okay.
I can ask. Can always ask the question.
So we may want like 3 or 4 locations, you know, depending on our funding and so on. And if the town wants to kick in, we won't say no.
Well, if you want to kick in all the way, we won't say no either.
Flip for it?
No, I don't flip.
No, okay. And then my third item is, maybe I'm speaking on perhaps for our association, we really appreciate the speedy way in which you have responded to the APA and
Oh, the boat
DEC
launch?
regarding the boat launch. We applaud that you're on board with that.
It caught us all by surprise.
Yes, well, yeah, they had indicated that it may have been coming, but, I mean, that's been open for so many years
Right.
that why close it now? And the excuses that they gave, or the reasons that they gave, didn't really seem all that feasible.
Yes, Rolf bet my ear for 20 minutes the other day.
Oh, okay, so I won't go through any of that.
Please don't.
You know, we do have some lake residents, and we have some other people who have disabled children. And we have some elderly, that live on the lake.
Yeah.
One couple, in fact, only can access their place by boat. And,
Yes, I saw that today.
Is that the New Jersey people?
That's Jeremy.
Jerry and Magita are
Or
on
New
the
Jersey,
small
are
side.
they New Jersey?
They're
Yes.
What's the modus there?
Yeah, they put up the mailbox.
They
and-
have I'm recognizing their SUV.
Yes, yes, they're not allowed to park overnight in the
That's
boat
what I
area,
figured.
so they have to park in the ditch, and,
Yep.
yes.
Well, other than the obvious, I'm also opposed to this because it does impact economics.
It does.
People who come out, tourists, visitors, that spreads that effect across the entire region there. So.
Absolutely, I mean, they come up for the day, and they you know, come down to Tide and do some shopping, and,
Yeah.
and, you know, have lunch or dinner, you know, so they do bring, and, the other thing when they were talking about putting up the barricade, I mean, you have American Disabilities Act, and if that barricade goes up, they have to have some kind of pathway that a disabled person can get down to the lake.
Yeah.
So, in the discussion with them, in a lengthy Zoom meeting the other night, they didn't even mention that, but we have certainly been aware of that in our discussions.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect. I don't know.
Yes. Well, they've done it, I guess, MCON and a group of concerned citizens helped to put in a paved, kind of a paved walkway on 13th Lake, because they came and, put the barricade up. But just closing it completely denies people access to the property.
That's right.
And handicapped and whoever else wants to come and enjoy. But I thank you for jumping on that. That was great that resolution was written. At first, when we saw it, we were like, well, where did this come from? And, pat on the back and kudos to whoever wrote it, and found out who did write it, and so we want to say thank you for that.
Well,
Appreciate it.
Thank you for thanking us.
Yes, you probably don't get many things.
No, we do not.
On that, Mark, we appreciate it.
So tough job.
So thank you, yes.
Did you have anything else?
I did not, no.
I make a motion we adjourn.
No. No one's gonna You gentlemen had something to
Debbie, can I
discuss.
just ask you real quick, can you get me those poll numbers and let me know what they are? Especially the one that had the lights on them?
Yeah, we can drive down tomorrow and do that.
Okay.
Just don't get hit by a car while
Yeah,
you're
don't put yourself in a situation. But if you could give me the numbers, I do have a contact
Okay.
that I can maybe reach out to and ask.
Okay, I'm assuming they did the numbers that were on there.
Yeah.
They would have to have some number.
They have to. Okay, we'll drive down and thank you.
National Grid or Niagara Mohawk or one of the
Whatever,
other
yeah.
companies.
Air Bell.
Yeah.
Okay,
Might have all three of them.
all right. Sorry, I'm done.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for letting me speak tonight. I apologize. We thought we were on the agenda, so I don't know what process we missed or whatever, but we'll try not to let that happen again. What you have in front of you is a solution to a whole bunch of problems for Ticonderoga. I'm Tim Halliday, represent Upstate Professional Management, LLC. I own it. So what we would like to propose is the rental of the bottom half of the formerly, it's currently Hudson Headwaters Center. We're proposing to rent that to the Ticonderoga Police Department. So I'm sure this is gonna not be effective for me to say it now because we're not on the agenda, but we were seeking approval for that tonight, which obviously is not gonna happen. Obviously pending any, legal review of a lease. So what we're proposing is the first floor of the entire building would be for the police department. We've talked to the safety committee about it and the police chief about it, and they have given us a proposal for floor plan layout. So in our proposal, we're offering to do the fit up at 100% our cost. So we would be responsible for changing the floor plan the way that is most beneficial to the police department. There's an option in there to add a sally port if that's something that you want. We would do that inclusive at the same rental fee as the additional building right now. So it would be free, but we would do that if that's what you needed to meet that need as well. We are also, if you go to the last page of that, they've asked us to do just kind of define what the responsibilities would be. So we would offer this at the proposed price that you have there. You would be responsible for your portion of the taxes and your portion of the building insurance. And then we would be responsible for the maintenance. So we would take care of the exterior of the building, the roof, the siding, the windows. The town would, and this reduces the cost to the town dramatically, take care of the parking lot, the landscaping, and that portion of the facility. We would take care of the entire interior minus wear and tear consumables. So you can paint the walls whatever color you want. We're going to do the floors initially, but going forward, if you wanted to put floor coverings on or change the floor coverings, that would be the responsibility of you as the tenant. We would take care of the HVAC systems, the plumbing systems, the electrical systems, anything that need to be maintained on a regular basis, like the HVAC systems. We would do the annual maintenance on that. Myself and Robert actually are former military, so I operated a nuclear power plant and trained and did a pre-overhaul inspections for the U.S. Navy when they did their refueling of one of the reactors. So I was in charge of the pre-overhaul items, so trust me, we will have a maintenance schedule that'll be very very rigid and well-defined, and will take great care of the building for you. And that's pretty much it. So we have the building under contract contingent upon the successful negotiation of this lease, and we don't have that under contract for eternity. So my request would be that if this is something that you're interested in, that you could make a decision as quickly as it's possible for a municipality to make a decision.
You know that municipalities usually operate on the schedule of eternity, right?
Yeah, I'm aware that I was in the Navy, as I said, so.
How long is your purchase agreement?
So we have had 60 days to secure the lease. I'm confident we can probably secure an extension if we need to, so we're about the 30-day mark. So we could easily go into into a March meeting without any issues. Beyond that, we're gonna be holding them up and holding the building hostage if they so choose. It's really at their whim at that point. It's not up to us to allow us to extend the lease, so, or the contingency on the
Is that
contract.
heated now, or did they drain everything?
It is heated. It is not winterized. Thank God. And it's copper. It's not PEX, so it needs to be heated. So yeah, there's no winterizing that. So, but
you're correct. Or we can't come to a decision tonight.
No, I understand.
Well, I want to ask Tom. We were originally expecting them to come to your municipal facility meeting as well. It's public safety. Public safety was really just to let that committee know this was going on. But I think this really falls under municipal facility in terms of recommending to the board if this is something that they want to do.
Yeah, exactly, and this came in after our last meeting, so our next meeting is, as I said, February 27th. So we'll bring this up at the meeting, both myself and Mr. Thatcher are on that. As I'm sure you're aware, we are a long ways down the road with looking at the purchase of and building a new police station on already owned grounds.
Yep.
Matt can probably speak a little further to the evaluations that would be required, lease versus ownership. I don't think that's an easy or a very quick evaluation that has to be done. So I'll kind of leave it at that. Matt, I don't know if you got anything to offer that or not, but.
No, yeah, it's, if you haven't leased to a governmental entity like a town before, essentially the town has a fiduciary obligation to taxpayer dollars, right? So they've got to go through, and there's no like statutory rule of how you get from point A to point B, but the general rule is they just have to compare whether or not this is more or less beneficial than a traditional design bid build, right? Town owning the facility versus the town leasing the facility. So that takes an accountant or somebody to evaluate the carrying costs. And yeah, it takes a little bit more due diligence on your end too, with taxes and things like that. If a town leases something, towns don't pay taxes. So there's generally an exemption, so you want to do your due diligence, talk to the assessor, who's not leaving, but whoever that may be, to understand what the tax situation is going to look like with that property. Sure. It could be a partial exemption, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Sure.
And obviously, the actual lease has to be produced for the board to consider that too.
Of course.
But you have to go through a kind of economic analysis of what's the better, and I don't weigh into that. Whatever they want to do is.
Right.
I carry it out.
I mean, we have your proposal, we understand, and we'd have to do some math on it, but we're also, looking at, as I said, the new building, and that's under schematic design. And the next step for that would be to go out and get some estimates for a new build, which we would have to do in order to compare that to this lease cost. We have to do that. I guess what I'm telling you is it's not going to happen in 30 or 60 days. It's going to take longer than that. Okay. So for your planning purposes, we could take a good long time for this to happen. I mean, not a year, but it won't be in 90 days. I can assure you, to get that evaluation done. We're probably looking at 60 to even 90 days to be able to get a good cost evaluation on a new build with today's numbers. We know what it was 2 years ago in evaluation, but we need some updated numbers. In order to do that, we've got to have a floor plan, schematics, something for our contractor to give us some good pricing on, and then we can kind of be able to really compare apples to apples.
Didn't we get a price on that a few years ago?
A few years ago.
Which was how much?
2.5.
Eventually, you're not on.
So they can't
Because
go
if we ever
in.
get a rental contract, you're gonna have to consider those. Yeah.
I mean, why would you have to go out and get a bunch of contractors? to
We
do
don't
it?
have to get a bunch of
When you
contractors
could
to
take-
bid, but we're
If it was
updating.
2.5, I mean, why can't they just add the percentage of the increase and?
We're changing the design a little bit, Dave, from the original deal several years ago, which was done pretty much on the back of a napkin, as you're well aware, and I've pointed out many times prior to this. And so we're doing a little bit more detailed. This is new to us, so we've been moving down the road on a new build, and we're gonna continue down that road until we can get some pricing to be able to compare this. And we need to do that.
The one at the Iowa location, was that gonna have a Sally Port? Did we ever decide one way or the other?
Which one?
The plan that you're
Yes,
currently working.
it does include Sally Port.
Chief, were you looking for the Sally Port, or?
If I can get one, I'll take one.
What I guess I'm getting at, police department really needs one.
Sure.
Absolutely.
It doesn't escape, I'm sure, anybody in the room that the police department is currently operating out of a condemned building.
We're aware, we're very aware, that's why it's on our priority list.
The reason I asked about the Sally Port is it's not something that's optional, it's something that we would.
Oh, okay, I was led to believe it's optional as far as our proposal goes. You can have it or you don't need to have it, it's completely up to you. So, and again, there's an annual increase on that, but we're not changing the cost per square foot, based on the fact that we're doing the entire fit. So it's virtually a donation to the town. There's just a lot of give ups there that we gave to be able to help you do this, so.
So you know his meeting's the 27th?
Yes, we have that written down, we will absolutely be there.
I'll put you guys on the agenda.
Is there some analysis that we could bring for you that would be a benefit to you if you have,
Well,
I mean, if your proposal is your building 4,200 square feet?
We're looking at about 4,500 square feet, between 4,000 and 4,500. I don't think the exact number is out yet, but that's what we're looking at right now.
Okay. I know you probably want to do your own independent analysis, so any analysis I bring is going to be a waste of your time.
As far as the new build,
What kind of build is it gonna be? Is it gonna be a steel structure? Clear span?
we haven't identified that yet. We're just now doing the floor plan and the schematics to get to that point. We haven't yet gotten there yet.
So as part of your analysis,
It will be a hardened structure.
So is part of your analysis to include debt service on that annually and things of
It
that
won't be
nature?
any debt service. We have a fund balance that we plan on using to pay for it at this point, unless we can find some grant money.
I've seen this thing, but I've never really gotten into any discussion with you. Just looking at this, the fit up stuff, is that done? Is somebody?
No, it was a medical center, it was a dentist office.
No, I mean, not the fit up, but is there a scope for what the fit up would be?
We have a floor plan we walked through with the police chief to check out that.
We jotted it all up.
We already have, but legally,
I didn't take off
the town, you have to have a stamp.
No, it doesn't have to.
No, you have to.
Yes. But we have Merkel's plan that we went over to Merkel's and
All right, I
you
just.
designed that after that, didn't you, Adam?
What's that?
Merkel's plan? Yes. I mean, you more or less went over it.
What I'm saying is anything you do has to be engineered stamped.
Right.
So somebody, architect's gonna have to go through, I remember when the fire department was going on, there was, that architect had the security stuff, there were a whole bunch of things where it was separate from the fire department and tangentially involved in that, not directly.
That your stamp with you?
It's a freestanding building, so all of the current petitions inside are temporary.
I'm thinking
Rearranging it
of
is very easy.
That has to be.
It has to be, there has to be, this right here is a building problem, because we do have a municipal facility evaluation committee for this very reason, so we follow steps. Taking a drafted floor plan and trying to put a budget to it, it's not how we can operate. We need to talk about, and what you would need is a detailed scope of work from the town on what exactly we would need. That obviously would cost town money, because we would have to get that drafted up for you based on information we presently have. We've been through it, we've looked at it, but we would need that. You would need to price that out, get it to us. We would need a copy of a formal lease in order to evaluate that whole process. So there's a bit of work to be done as opposed to, you know, approving something like this today. So it's a process, and it needs to come through the city's evaluation committee, and it would probably behoove you to stay on that focus as opposed to trying to catch some people that aren't involved in that committee.
Okay. Well, that's, understanding the process is key, and that's exactly one of the reasons that we're here tonight, so I appreciate that. So we will hopefully be on your agenda. We will see you on the 27th, and we'll do our best to provide the information that you guys need as quickly as we can and as succinctly as possible, so.
Great. And in the meantime, I'll talk to Matt and try to have a list for our meeting on the 27th of information that we would need from you guys to kind of be able to create that evaluation.
Sure. It's not entirely long.
Yeah.
For me, it's the lease. How you guys evaluate what the better financial options really purely your.
Yeah.
Sure, we can have you at least.
Right.
That's no problem. Is there a, I mean, we've been provided a floor plan. Is that the same floor plan you're working with? Is that, because we can?
No, that floor plan was something that was done several years ago. It had not gone through, engineering had looked at it. They had come up with a very, it would have to be gone through, and the floor plan didn't include things like hardening and you know, windows that are bulletproof and, you know, sally ports, and there's a lot of information in there that didn't exist in that particular floor plan. It was just a floor plan to see if it fit.
Print sketch, right?
Right, just a print sketch. So there's a lot of work that would have to be done.
Okay, well, if you can get us any of that ahead of time, that would be spectacular, if you have whatever you have available, so that we can.
I've got all the information from codes. When we were looking at it before, they gave us all the state codes and stuff that complied, that said that building complied.
Okay, excellent. So, and so I'm sorry that I feel very thick. Do you have a floor plan, or do you have
We do not have a approved floor plan for that building. This comes through our committee.
They're supposed to present it the next meeting.
They have a floor plan for the schematic for the new build that they're presently working on, and they may or may not have it by the next meeting. They're trying to, but that's, the engineering firm is working on a floor plan and a schematic for the new build.
Okay, so we'll bring a floor plan that we, have talked to folks about that seem like it's a good idea, and we'll compare apples and hopefully come up with a solution. So we're here to solve your problem, because if you don't need this, we don't need the building. So we're here to help you guys. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it very much. Do you have any more questions for us? Any more information you'd like to see?
No.
Excellent.
I'll get that stuff to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You guys have a great evening.
Thank you.
Mark, I have one more question.
You would.
No. With the brain never shuts off. Now that you've approved that resolution, do you have in mind like a next step for that vote launch? Opposing the vote launch?
No, I
Have you thought about it?
have no next step.
No, okay.
I have no authority over the APA.
Right, I know.
This is about, all I can think of doing right now is opposing it officially, both at the county level and the town level.
Do you know if Essex County is doing anything?
They did the same thing we did.
They did, okay.
Dan Steck is aware of it.
Yes, I know Dan just, yeah.
But the way it was put to us, it was not asking or soliciting information or opinion. This is what we're doing.
Okay.
So you got the same look and we got.
Surprise, yes.
The effect was the same, yes.
Yes, all right. Well, thank you.
Anybody have anything else? Greg, you can explain it again?
I just have two really quick things.
Yeah.
One, I just want, for those that don't know Shannon, she's working with me.
Hello.
I invited her to come to a board meeting so she experienced the fun.
What an experience.
What very nice welcome.
You picked a good one.
Join AES, see the world.
I hear it all.
I've actually
actually been working down here for quite a while, just not on this side of things. I've been working on the construction side of things. So I was a part of the first well project, the upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant, and the portage project,
So tomorrow you're putting your application back in to get back into that other?
Well, I don't know, that has its own issues.
Oh, it's nice to hear you. You have our sympathy.
And then just briefly, you covered pretty much everything in the committee, just other than probably the next month or so, all the other grants, water, sewer that we've been talking about for the last couple of years, we gotta both be making some decisions one way or the other sooner rather than later, so probably month of March. Want to talk about some other meetings, go over those.
Look for a time.
Yeah, so I'll work with you on a time and we can schedule that.
You're going on your vacation too, they're both going on vacation.
Yeah, but we coordinated for the same week, so.
I'm the only one not going on vacation.
It's all right, never mind.
Shannon's got it covered.
I'll be here.
Anybody else in the boat have anything? Just take it.
I got a question for you after, that's more than we can find. Give a couple minutes.
We have a motion to adjourn.
I'm over.
Second.
I
Just did.
Do we need to have a motion when we executive
No,
session?
meeting with me isn't subject to open meeting.
Well, we're adjourned at 9:11.